A very volatile matchup, right? Scream, a little bit more consistent out of the jungle, whereas his team is a little bit less consistent holistically. Cuvo Fred, less consistent on his own, but the entirety of the ONI Warriors have been working together as a squad, I think, at a slightly higher level consistently throughout the year. I'm expecting a lot from these two squads. Gone are the days of Cuvo Fred being adapting light, mainly because adapting is no longer in the SPL, so Cuvo Fred just has to carry that moniker by himself. And I'm sure he can do so. He can play that facilitator style. Gods like Hunt Bots come to mind. He's also very capable of playing the Kali, despite banning it out themselves. Both of these guys have very similar god pools. I'd argue Scream likely has a slightly larger one because he's pulling things like Poseidon Jungle out. So maybe jungle pick's going to be something that both of these squads are vying for early on in the draft.
Well, players all throughout this matchup have some unique picks here. So you see Kali banned away. That is from Scream. Make no mistake about it. No one else. And the Ola run as well gets taken away from the ONI Warriors. And I think there's a conversation to be had around the mid lane as well here, Mifflin, where Baronic has shown improvement throughout this year, has at times really stepped up and been at the forefront of the winning efforts of the Solar Scarabs team. Dardes is such a unique conversation piece to have, especially around picks and bans, because haven't there just been times where it feels like Dardes is playing the meta and it doesn't look great, and then you throw him on something that just feels more Dardes, whether it's the Morrigan or the Hera or the Discordia, and those are the games when the ONI Warriors maybe look more comfortable. I wonder if that starts to play into picks and bans at all here today.
Yeah, I'm very curious. Generally, in sets of past, the ONI Warriors stay very much in line with the standard meta for the first game of these longer sets. Put their backs against the wall, that's where the Heras and the Discordias start to ring true. But I think there's some truth to your statement in that the ONI Warriors look best when they're playing their slightly off-kilter picks. I wouldn't be too surprised or angry if I see them pick some of those more flavorful selections in this first game.
It has been Tiamat, Ra, Aphrodite, Discordia, AMC, Neith are the 6 gods that Dardes has played most recently. So some...
Dude, I thought you were listing vote at me, man.
Right, well, with the AMC and Neith there towards the end for sure, but that was a little bit of a little bit ago, and we'll see if Dardes pivots things up moving forward here. Achilles locked in for the ONI Warriors. Erlong Shen out of the jungle, we're assuming, for Scream, and that does provide a good bit of early setup and priority to Scream in the jungle, exactly what the Solar Scarabs need.
I'm really surprised to see Erlong Shen prioritized so highly in the draft. I would have thought if you're taking a jungler in that first pick selection, it would have been the Kamazots that go to the way of the ONI Warriors on the other side. But Erlong Shen, still incredibly strong, has the opportunity to go towards that Mannequin Scepter in the first slot, bring a whole lot of kill potential early. You can transition yourself a little bit more so towards Bruiser come mid-game, and then act as an initiator for your team, which might be something that the Solar Scarabs have to look towards, considering Ganesh has decent initiation. If he's landing the dash, if he's finding those silences incredibly strong, but it's a little bit less consistent. But this is a disgusting combo. I'd almost forgotten about Zeus because he goes by the wayside in that last set. But Dharmic Pillars with a Lightning Storm in the middle. It's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Walk through the Dharmic Pillars, get your defense shredded, or sit in the middle and get your HP bar shredded by a Lightning Storm.
You know what feels pretty good, Miff, is I'm rolling through Dardes' picks here thinking that AMC and Neith won't matter, and suddenly it might matter as AMC is locked in for the ONI Warriors. Could, of course, still be Vervote over in the duo lane, but as far as in the last 6 games, Dardes has played it more recently than Vote has. And so, the rest of the draft will open our eyes a little bit towards what ends up getting picked. The Freya there, Miff, is that raising your eyebrows just a bit?
Gotta think she's been dominating some scrims. Maybe the ONI Warriors have been playing it in
like Poseidon
some
for
practice.
Scream, right?
Yeah, so I don't know. Freya's always going to be okay, right? As far as DPS is concerned, while she's got her abilities active, she's still one of the highest DPS gods in the game, as well as Valkyrie's Discretion, getting a little bit of a boost. You get up into the air a little bit more quickly now, so maybe something the Solar Scarabs want to kind of control going forward. It seems like they're hedging their bets that it is very likely going to be this AMC towards mid, and they think that it's pretty likely that Vote NBK goes towards some of those magical ADCs. Yeah, well, ban them out.
I'm curious, you mentioned Zeus. You talked about going by the wayside. Why do you think that is? I mean, look, Book of the Dead tweaked a little bit. Still very good, right? I mean, it's not a bad item by any means. Still a good item. You think there's just been more priority in the mid lane that's kept Zeus by the wayside? Not so much Zeus being bad, but just other gods being better?
I think that Zeus is a god that fits into a lot of drafts very well, but you still have to kind of build your composition around him slightly, and he's not as plug-and-play as some of these other mages. We've seen a lot of Morgan Le Fay, we've seen a lot of the Morgan, these more specialist picks. But if you had to ask me, if Zeus isn't getting picked, I think it's kind of just wrong. Like, if he's not banned and he's available, his damage output is still incredibly high. With the change to his shield toss, his survivability is pretty good now as well, getting additional movement speed when that's out 20% at rank 1. That's wild. Some gods get 20% at max rank stims. He gets that at level 1. Essentially, his clear's gotten a lot better as well. And even though Book of the Dead does get a nerf, it's only 5% less mana shielding than you had prior. Was 30, now 25. That's still super good. I don't know. The health shields that you were getting for Book of the Dead last patch were still like 80% of your HP bar. Now it's only going to be like 70%.
All right, so there's some unique play around one another here that's worth mentioning, of course. Ganesh and Zeus has been a very popular combo. You lock them in the Dharmic Pillars and then drop Lightning Storm on top of it. And so either you stand inside the Lightning Storm or you walk out of the Dharmic Pillars. So that's a strong combo. But Thor here as well. And if it were any other team than the Solar Scarabs, we're maybe a little confused. But remember, SOT, so mechanically strong, especially on some of these slightly weirder
picks. A lot more weight
picks.
behind it. And Scream is a really big portion of what brought the success for the Scarabs. Now they're playing a different draft. There's so much to talk about and so much to try and break into.
Oh, they're planning.
But I'm really just excited for the jungle matchup.
Agreed. I think the jungle matchup is going to be something to definitely focus on, especially with Cuvo Fred now playing over in North America alongside the whole of the Warriors. I think that's the story of the Warriors, first of all. First real time we're going to get to see them up and against it in studio. Neil Mar, though, early on, taking a lot of damage at this level 1 point. He won't die here, still has meditation left. Will have to fall back, though, and maybe give some of this pressure up. That's allowing Scarabs a bit of room. Yeah, meanwhile, I was going to say, the Scarabs on the other side of the coin, they're quite very confident today. Yeah. Talk to them, they're all like 3-0s. We're all really confident, feeling good about this set.
And I think that's the biggest thing. Even Scream in his interview was just like, yeah, I think we're better. Like, as a team, we are a better team than we were, a month and a half ago when we last saw them. Yeah, absolutely, right? A lot of changes have come through. Solar Troll playing the Thor solo is something that we've gotten to see out of him a few times. Like, this feels very Scarabs-esque. I mean, everything that they've locked in just feels like it fits them like a glove. And that is such a good thing to bring into an event like this, especially Game 1 in a best-of-5. You've got a lot of wiggle room, especially if things don't go well.
Very close for SOT, but he will resustain with a meditation, along with a health potion or 2 to tick along there, Gore. But this is kind of to be expected in the early game for this Thor. Sit back, get poked out a little bit, just try and use that hammer to clear out waves, and hope for a rotation or get to level 5.
Yeah, survive for a while, right? That's his goal. And honestly, it kind of feels like that's been the goal for the Warriors duo lane a little bit as well. For them to figure out who exactly and how fast they're going to be able to kill them. So it does isolate it a little bit. But then you look at where some of the anti-heal is, Medusa having that on a much more easily applicable ability now in her spit as opposed to having to use her dash on someone to get it. I think that opens up at least a little bit, helps deal with the 2 meds that are on the other side, and opens up a conversation.
On in mid lane, follow-up damage is there for Baronic. Oh my God. Didn't even need to pull the trucker horn there. Gets first blood, and Scarabs are off to the races nice and early, shutting down this AMC mid.
We've watched, I think this is like the 4th, maybe 5th Zeus game since the meta has shifted for him. I'm still surprised how much damage he does in the blink of an eye. Not something that we've seen often, and it's not something that comes up in my mind. But, you have to think about it. I guess there was a small nerf to Wind Demon, and ideally, most builds have that Crusher, X item, then Wind Demon, then either something else or Deathbringer. So maybe it's just going to help him.
Oh, Velt needs some help right about now. We'll get the ultimate off, return some damage to Stuart, but not going to be enough to get a kill. Stuart's ultimate was really just to try and secure it. Wasn't really needed at the tail end there of that engagement, but beads were consumed by Vote. Beads still available for Stuart. Now Stuart is lazy backing in lane here. In comes Cubo Fred. Great silence from Bobby, though, to buy some time. And now Stuart realizes he's got to fight to try and get a kill. The swoops, there it is, are there, and Stuart will fall down to Cubo Fred. Bobby now surrounded as the pressure comes through from Scream, rotating in to make them be punished for the over-aggression. At the end of the day, it's a 2-for-1 so far in the duo lane, and Neil Mar's in a bit of trouble here. The CC chain's good from the Scarabs. He'll leap away to live to fight another day.
A little bit of more mana or a little faster on some cooldowns, and that's going to be a 3-for-1 trade. Either way, you're more than happy with it. You had mentioned it. You get the beads and the kill onto Vote. You end up getting the blink as well as the ult and a kill onto Cuvo. You lose Stuart and you lose his beads, but I think you're still feeling happy about it, especially with Stuart being able to get one of those, the other one going on to Scream. It's a nice little experience crit, and no matter what, you're going to be very happy.
And that makes a lot of sense to look for those options, really. You want to make sure you're at least splitting the difference and going, well, if this guy goes all health, AMC's going to get it taken care of. Well, if this guy's going to go squishy, then maybe he can get a cheeky crit off. Focus maybe then on Vote trying to get his eyes on the Zeus at some point in this game. Easier said than done, though. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, level 12 was reached by Baronic first of all. Scarabs are really focused on that, and here comes the burst on the objective, but Neilmar senses the danger, tries to get in to cause a problem. Too little, too late from the Warriors, though. Inbound could be a casualty of war, though. I don't think Scarabs will be upset about losing Bobby for the Gold Fury.
No, that's one of the classic trade in Smite, right? Realistically is, hey, you can kill our support all you want. We're going to get 2,000 gold for it and feel very happy towards the end of the day. It's the invades off the back of it, though, that are really going to cause some trouble. You get the blue buff over there. I think the red buff was just looked at by Cuvo, so that's actually a huge deal to strip those away.
Blinking mid, Cuvo Fred looking at Baronic, and Baronic taking a ton of damage so far, doesn't really panic, and into the sky goes Cuvo Fred. Scream was on the scene at the right time there. You can see his blink was always also consumed. He really made sure he got there to support his mid laner. That's an important one to defend.
That's actually a huge deal. Baronic stayed very calm under pressure. I mean, he didn't have his ult, so it's not like he could have dropped that, but no beads usage there. Just kind of recognized, I'm going to be fine. I'm under my tower. There's not much Cuvo's going to be able to accomplish
I don't think it was less of like, I'm going to be fine. I think it was more like, there's nothing I can do.
I'm either going to die or I'm okay. But when you start to look towards late game, you had mentioned it, not just 2 carries, but getting them their items online is going to empower them, Cuvo as well. And realistically, you've got the Achilles plus the Fafnir. This Thor can do a lot of frontlining, same thing for Erlong, but they are still inherently squishier than what you're going to get out of a Guardian. And so that's something to factor into it. Plus, just it's been a while since we've seen Solo Patrol play this Thor, and how he fits into the team fights is going to be essential for the Scarab success.
ONI Warriors on the aggressive here, looking for a red buff invade. Scream looks for the ult, doesn't find it, however, but still has a sustain coming through and chases on towards Dardes. Dardes has to Aegis and run away as fast as the bee can go. Medusa around the corner connects with the ultimate, and Bobby takes a brunt of the damage, but no one's fallen yet. Thor is in the sky, however, and comes crashing in on Cuvo Fred, but everybody backs away to live for now, and red buff is secured by the Scarabs.
That's a lot to drop for a single red, but at the end of the day, with how close the game's been, it's a huge win. Maybe for the Scarabs, but it feels like, at least ult economy-wise, the Warriors come out ahead. You know you get a great stun from Vote. You had highlighted being able to stop that aggression games over the last couple of months, but like the semi-global presence that Thor can bring is actually such a huge deal. Normally, in the jungle, we're talking, oh, if he's in the Gold Fury pit, he can hit the duo lane, Fire Giant pit, there's Solo. For right now, it's just if you see a rotation coming out from the solo laners, which you can see Solo Patrol making his way over here,
look at this.
It's a big deal.
Primal Fury bursting down relatively quick. Bobby trying to make something happen and can't do so with the pillars. He has to walk away now as the ONI Warriors jump in, take an objective, pretty much uncontested there, and walk away unscathed. Great call from them. And that's part of the solo laners rotating towards this left-hand side of the map now. Nika, haven't spoken about him too much, but he's been consistently stealing buffs on the right-hand side and finds himself with a 2-level lead over SOT.
And that's something, again, this Thor's already uncomfortable because he's an assassin, and now they're getting chased.
Blink in from Cuvo, look towards Baronic, whose Aegis is now down. The wall will prevent the follow-up for a second, but being still used by Baronic, and in goes the bat out of hell from Cuvo. Realizes he can't get out more, but what they did do there was force Baronic to use his ultimate, and as soon as that goes down, ONI Warriors look like they're playing the objective game right now. Straight over to the Pyromancer, or even the Fire Giant.
He still has his Book of the Dead, but he had to use both relics, and like you said, the ult. I mean, Nika's isolated, but this is such a good call for the Warriors.
Fire Giant at half health, ultimate used by Vote, didn't really connect with anybody he was after. SOT gets to the sky, forces a bit of a reset from the Warriors here. However, they are still leashing this FG. Remember, Zeus ult down, now Thor ult down, and he's low on health. Will have to return to base, and will be a moment for him to get back. Scarabs here just looking to stall out, and Bobby doing so, it causes him his life to be lost. Screen meanwhile next on the list, and now Baronix is sitting duck. He's going to need some backup. He's got it coming in the form of Stuart and now SOT, but the health bars of the Warriors here is dropping lower as they go back towards the Fire Giant once more.
But they've got the perfect 3 doing it, right? The 2 carries plus a Fafnir. Neil can tank, although right now it's on Dardes, but they should be able to burn it. It's going to take a little while, but with the zone and the kills they just got, that's, I think, maybe one of the earliest Fire Giants we've gotten this year. Most of the time, it's been at that 18-minute mark, and they're just a little earlier for that. But I think they play that perfectly well. They recognize we force Baronic's ult, we get his relics. We have an opening here. They go forward, they force the Book of the Dead, but they also make Solo Patrol fall back, and turn it into this 4v5. Inbound just use his ult around the Fury. They don't have to worry about it. So they have so many factors that are just playing right into their hand.
could see this team go in the distance, could see this team potentially winning the World Finals. But their struggles and tribulations have really come up to haunt them, and now they find themselves in the placement stage with a shot to go all the way to Worlds. But they've got to get through the SCARABS team so far today in this best of 5. In game 1, looking good so far.
And it's easy to talk about it. You know, Neil also has won the 2 back-to-back World Championships. It's
SOT finds a double wall after missing the up.
Wow.
So will at least spit, but it won't be enough with the Petrify to find the kill. Neil over the wall throws a hammer on Scream to buy him some time. He's going to need more than that, though, as he's knocked up into the air. Ultimate is available, but is it wasted? Oh, look at this! Nika and Kubo going to the backside, leaping in, looking for a target. Execute onto Stewart, didn't do anything as the Aegis was used beautifully, but Stewart still falls down to Nika. Spin to win from SOT, trying to follow up damage all towards Kubo. Fred, whose bead's now consumed. Hammer double tap off the mark from SOT, and the SCARABS have to turn tail as now 3 members of Warriors looking relatively healthy, thinking about going in for some more. Hammer from SOT slows them down, and against a Fire Giant team, that's not too bad from the Solar SCARABS.
Some of this setup and engage. I mean, Solar Patrol has a great setup, but if it's not on the mark, or if it's a little too late, or if he's just out of range, it all kind of falls apart. Same thing can be said for Scream. The last couple of ults we've seen from him haven't been as stellar as what we're used to seeing from an Erlang Shen.
ONI Warriors already in position of the FG and pull it immediately. Solar SCARABS on the scene though, but have to whittle down Nika first of all to get in range to see what's going on. And unfortunately, the Warriors have already taken the FG. Bobby's health disappears. Baronicle is good as he gets looked at by Neil. More of all people trying to pressure him back out. Neil still alive. Will fall momentarily. Expect he's running for his life, and Scream gets the kill. Meanwhile, SOT, who was hunting Vote, can't secure that one, and he's just Scream left alive. This could be game gore off that FG siege, and the power and damage that the double hunter composition can do. That's the danger of this. Could have come back to haunt them, and SCARABS looks like they're going to take a tumble in game 1 here.
And the way you know that that one hits, I want to say twice as hard at home for the SCARABS, Dardas still has both his relics. He did not feel threatened throughout all of that. I mean, that's about what we get to, right? We talked about the 2 carries. We talked about that plus the Fafnir. Of course, Neil not being able to do anything at the very end there.
Doesn't it? It's the type of game where it didn't necessarily feel cut and dry, clean cut. We already saw a skirmish 6-7 minutes into the game early over here in Duo, and that's where this one starts out. Kubo Fred on the Camazotz turning that around. The scrap and then the fighting around the Gold Fury was drawn out. Plenty of back and forth kills. And it helped build a bit of a lead for the ONI Warriors, but it's really this fight where it feels like the game changes.
Yeah, it felt like the Solar SCARABS got off to a very fast start, utilizing some of the more aggressive picks in their draft, specifically Scream on this Erlang Shen. Found a couple of really good taunts early on to facilitate Baronic. And then around the 13-minute mark, I believe, we saw Scream missed an ultimate, and then everything kind of slowed down from there. He stopped looking for the engages to the same extent. Baronic kind of relegated himself more so to a farm role. And given that space of slowing down, the ONI Warriors said, word, we're just going to utilize our double hunter composition and farm out in the macro game, establishing themselves a pretty sizable gold lead that they immediately transitioned into a Fire Giant, which immediately transitioned into an end of the game.
Right, the KDA stats here show you a very even game. Damage numbers skewed towards the ONI Warriors. Everyone but the supports on the ONI Warriors over that 10k mark, so there's plenty of damage to be done. And I think that last highlight around the Fire Giant was pretty telling about how it felt like the last couple of fights went, where Vote and Dardas as the double ADC comp were just sitting together, effectively holding hands in the back of the fight, and nobody from the Solar SCARABS was able to walk forward and find that backline. Now you start to look at compositions, right? It didn't feel like the Solar SCARABS did anything wrong compositionally in Game 1. That felt like a Solar SCARABS draft. Some of the fights maybe just got out of control down the stretch. But that's a great start if you're the ONI Warriors and ONI Warriors fan. One of the first games that the team is together all on LAN, and it's a scrappy, maybe call it a comeback, but a hard-fought win here in studio.
Yeah, I don't think the Solar SCARABS need to concern themselves too much so with the style of draft that the ONI Warriors brought. I think taking away the Achilles, a very good start. You're able to kind of mitigate some of those health shields. Now the Camazotz taken off the table as well means that you don't have to worry yourself about Zeus kind of getting dove in the back line in the middle of his own lightning storm.
Yep.
So I think the Solar SCARABS can certainly go back to that exact same style of draft that they had themselves. If they want to play that Zeus style with the Ganesh, it's very hard to argue against. It's a draft that we saw first in the league from the Jade Dragons. They also played that Thor in the Soul lane as well. And it brings a lot of pressure. It's very snowbally. If you get the ball rolling early, you should be able to kind of win out on the macro just by nature of having more damage than the opposition. But we saw in the last game, the issue wasn't the draft, it wasn't the team composition. It was more so an issue of pacing for the Solar Scarabs. So I want to see them maintain their confidence. I talked about it a little bit earlier. It just felt like a couple of fights started to go awry and the Solar Scarabs lost a lot of the wind in their sails. They need to stick to their guns, stick to their game plan, and I think they'll come out just fine.
How quickly we forget, Myth. Remember, this is the Solar Scarabs team that for a while felt allergic to winning game 1 and then would win a game 2, push us on to game 3. So it's no, you know, we're far away from strange territory here, going down early in a set. It's always the Scarabs who find the ability to bounce back. And that's what they're going to have to do up against a Soul and AMC composition here, Mifflin. So you get a Soul, you get an AMC. It was Dardes on AMC in game number 1, but it was also double traditional Hunter. Do you really have big preference here between Soul and AMC as far as mid duo lane goes, or you're just trying to stay alive and get to the objective in the team fighting phase?
I think that the answer to that question kind of comes with which style of jungler are you bringing. If it's a super high pressure style of jungle, maybe you want to toss AMC in the mid so you can kind of play through that mid 3v3 and kind of utilize that action-y style of pick early on. If it's going to be a slower scaling jungler, you can just toss the AMC over into the duo lane and have Soul play very safe in the mid. So I'd be more confident answering that question as we see a little bit more of the draft. I am excited.
That's a good answer
for this Umoja. Oh, hey, look, I'll try my best. Okay, that's not what I was expecting. So we saw last game.
The Scarabs were the ones who
they banned
it, right?
They banned it away from the ONI Warriors in the second phase last time around. They also banned out the Neath in the previous game.
ONI Warriors had taken away the Neath in the second wave of bans. So clearly these two teams on somewhat of a similar page here, Miff, about where the priority lies. And some style of double Hunter composition was there for the ONI Warriors in game 1. Now it's there for both of the teams in game 2. But the Fafnir then becomes the important topic of conversation. The Scarabs knew they were drafting into this style of comp and wanted the Umoja anyway for inbound. Support-wise, do you feel like, given now what we've seen, all of the same roles are selected, do you think with the Fafnir, the ONI Warriors come out ahead, or do you think Umoja brings enough on her own that team-wide coerce isn't the most important thing in the draft right now?
I think the team-wide coerce is going to help you out a lot around permanent and neutral objectives, to be sure. If we're talking about just their capacity to burn away these macro game plays, you're probably favoring the ONI Warriors. But I think what Umoja brings to this draft for the Solar Scarabs is equivalent in value, in that I am highly expecting this Freya to go into the long lane. She doesn't really have the best early game clear. Umoja has the best early game clear of all the Guardians, so she should be able to shore up some of that weakness from Freya, allow her to get into that portion of the game where she's one of the highest scalers in Smite. Freya does that level of DPS. And worth noting, Neath, a selection for the Solar Scarabs, was banned out last time around. She's gotten a couple of buffs recently, does a little bit more damage, has some decent counter matchup into what the ONI Warriors are bringing. Unravel now steals some of that attack speed, so even if you are getting that coerce, Neath can take some of that away from you as well. Both of these drafts have a lot of value, but one of these drafts has been tested before, and that's the ONI Warriors. So I'm going to have a little bit more confidence in what they're bringing.
Right, just because we know what it looks like. Neath as well, the World Weaver, I think, as this draft rounds out for the ONI Warriors, still needing a solo laner and jungler, might become a little bit more apparent where some of those World Weavers go. AMC, mobile, you can burn the beads, maybe send an ultimate his direction, provide some setup. And you wondered what style the ONI Warriors might be looking for depending on where Hugo Fred went with his pick in the jungle. The Fenrir is locked in here, Miff. Do you think that is a high-pressure style pick that makes an earlier question any clearer to you?
Yeah, I think now I would really like to see the AMC towards the center of the map. Fenrir is going to bring a lot of pressure. AMC's got phenomenal, very fast follow-up. You can pick up that stinger out of Ragnarok's mouth just about every single time and always be ready to follow up. Soul maybe has similar levels, but it takes a little bit longer for her scaling to hit the same level as AMC. Soul less of a threat at level 5 than AMC is. So I think we are going to see the Magical Hunters duo lane matchup between Freya and Soul. AMC likely headed to mid to match up against the actual Hunter on the other side as well. A lot of parity between these two drafts. I like both compositions. And I'm not wholly convinced that Mulan is slated for the Soul lane.
No?
I've been seeing a lot of jungle Mulan recently.
Yeah.
And if you've got a low pressure magical hunter like Freya, okay, well now I'm reeling. I'm backpedaling real hard now.
Right, as you should. Myth, the
Not
ability
just
to,
bad, dude. I gotta say it.
The ability to change your mind when new information is presented to you
valuable.
is so valuable, and it's an important part of being an adult and a functioning member of society.
Message me going, but the bees give some regen, so fine. You know, there's a little bit of regen there. So I do wonder if anti-heal does make a big part of this. More importantly, for the Scarabs, I feel they've got a ton more sustain in this composition.
Yeah.
And so anti-heal may play a factor in this one.
I think it's going to be a big deal, and you can already see like meds coming online for the Warriors. So level 12, I'm anticipating somebody getting an Ankh, and it's probably going to end up being Neil.
Interesting underhanded tactics used by Neil. He's trying to slow down Stuart, really being able to get any wave clear going on this Freya early on, as Vote now hits 2 on that left-hand side to match that Stuart already had. So in this lane, expect to see this sort of pressure with Fafnir and Assault together go. They should be pushing the wave in like this and hoping the jungler doesn't pay any attention towards that duo lane.
And that's just such the downside. Like, Neil might take more damage throughout the process, but unless there's a jungle gank over there, he's going to be happy.
Cubo Fred just a little off the mark on Baronic there, but got a bit of damage off in return with the backup from Dardas too, as SOT and Nika scrap away. Dangerous battle between the two there. I feel like both of them have kill potential in this early stage, definitely leaning more towards the Mulan, however.
You know, this is one that's going to be very interesting, because like you said, Mulan's going to lane bully and should control a majority of this, but the late game transition is where things get even more interesting. Mulan can disrupt the fights, but RDO heals everybody and disrupts the fight. So it feels maybe a little more Nika-sided there, but it really does depend on how well that lane goes. And where Scream's putting his pressure maybe could help find some kill pressure over in the solo lane, but realistically, I expect to see him hanging out mid, potentially coming over here to help give Stuart some pressure, because this Freya, it's going to take a little while before we really get to see anything from her.
But honestly, this position for Scarabs isn't bad in the duo lane. They're in a comfortable position, chilling under their tier 1 tower. No real dive potential available. And obviously, alongside the Yemoja with the sustain there, you can see Bobby's not really using spamming his abilities. He's happy there just to re-sustain as Nika takes it to SOT again on the right. Cubo Fred and Scream hanging in the area. A duel in the jungle will begin as we tune him to the left-hand side. 2 double fire. Let's go, Doug. What can me and both of you do? Scream locked very low, stunned in place. Slashes back in to avoid this chain, then gets an Aegis off to buy some time. Stun follow-up and Scream still alive for now, using the med from SOT to stay in this engagement. The damage isn't good enough though to stay alive as SOT trades it back with Cubo Fred, and Nika comes out on top, could get a kill. One more tick, it won't be enough. Nika will not find a kill, as in now it trades out 1 for 1. First blood goes the way of the Warriors.
15 health, and all of a sudden I think everything goes in favor of the Warriors there, but you lose it, you know, 1 for 1. I actually think beneficial for Cuvo to get that first blood. Still feels nice.
At the tail end with this Windfire Wheels, or just buys himself some time in an engagement.
Well, we actually got to see, and this is something that I think is going to affect Scream, but it'll also hurt Baronic a little bit, and a little bit Solar Troll in that engagement. Nika has a cripple field. Nika can just straight up say, cool, your Windfire Wheels that you would use to escape or engage here, you're not going to use it. You can't use it while I'm near you.
Sash in from Scream towards Cubo Fred, who up-downs after a hammer from Neil. Connects. Scream tries to roll away. Connects with Neil Mar to buy some time for reinforcements, but they're not there in time to support. Bobby can really only watch on with the limited amount of Omni he's got, and Stu ends up getting hit by Cuvo. Chase could be on now, looking for another kill onto Bobby as he falls down 2, and the Warriors stretch their lead to 3 kills to 1. At the same time, the red buff just spawned.
Yeah, Baronic can't do anything about this one, just has to watch it go to the wayside. And this is going to be the downside. When you look at both of these comps, you both technically have 2 carries, right? You've got the Neath and the Freya on one side versus Soul and the AMC on the other. But the Soul AMC with Fafnir, but specifically Fenrir next to it, are hitting a lot harder. Soul comes online before Freya, and even though AMC maybe comes online technically behind the Neath, it doesn't seem to be affecting them too much.
Wave clear factor in him. It's pretty effective on both teams. Neef's very good in the mid lane at shutting that down, as is AMC, so I don't expect to see a tower fall in there for quite a while. And as we said, Scarab's going to be quite happy to turtle under that left-hand tier 1. Funny enough, the first time they step away from that tier 1 is where they lose some lives, helping out Scream in the jungle.
It's been Maybe one of the bigger problems. Now Solar Troll's in trouble. No, they're going for Scream.
They are. They're trying to bring Scream back into the rabbit nest of this blue buff area. Off the mark was SOT with the final shot of his ultimate into the sky, though, with now Baronic rotating in. SOT gets the kill on Cubo Fred. Nika under pressure. Ultimate used by Baronic to CC Chain. And a ring toss will get the kill. Neilmar just arrived on the scene there a little bit too late for comfort. And Warriors got a bit too aggressive for their own good there.
Held their own, and a couple of things from Cubo were just off the mark. I think he goes for a Brutalize right after getting sashed and coming down, and just kind of leaps slightly to the side as opposed to maybe getting some damage out, anything that maybe could have been something that Nika could have capitalized on. And as long as the right side is open, I love the fact that the Scarabs immediately go to get aggressive, start looking for buff invades, try to take out Harpies, go for the Greater Scorpion, take advantage of the win.
Definitely, so they get the blue buff, a bit of a camp in the jungle. Oh, look at Neil, though, does use underhanded tactics to secure the Scorpion. Can he escape? Great stuff from Bobby, though, to make sure he can't jump away. However, Cubo was on the scene and takes out Scream. Next on the list is SOT. That's a double for the lad from Denmark. And next up is Inbound as he chases on. This could be a delayed triple kill. No one cares about your portal there.
6-2. I'm going to let that one speak for itself. Hey, that's great for Cubo. I mean, when was the last time, like almost a year ago, is maybe the last time we saw Cubo have that kind of game. So this is a huge win, I think, just for the Warriors in the beginning. But it shows how scrappy this is. Yeah. And realistically, you have to factor in so many weird things later on. You mentioned the healing that's going to come out on the side of the Scarabs a lot more. Plus the damage from Stewart that could cause a lot of trouble in that late game. Anti-heal then on the Warriors. I mean, so many different factors that come into play. But realistically, both of those kills, whether it was from the Scarabs before or the Warriors after, were just, hey, we stayed too long in this fight.
I mean, credit where it's due to Neilmar in this play. I mean, I know we're going to see Cubo pick up all the kills here, but this was reinforcements of Cubo and Nika. Remember, they just fallen and died in the previous engagement. And Neil being in the right place at the right time bought time for Warriors to get back in position.
A lot of that, if you look at the net worth, is admittedly in the jungle. It's a little over 1,000 that Cubo has specifically over Scream, but that's to be expected. He's 6-2, and his ult feels like it's going to be able to bring a lot more to the fight, but being able to find that level lead, I mean, you've got a massive gap there in mid, and that's just such a huge deal, because if this AMC gets to anywhere near the comfort with 2 hunters on both teams, or it gets 2 carries, you're waiting for items.
Cubo and Fred hunting in the jungle here. Did get hit by the ultimate from the World Weaver in mid lane from Baronic there, but he managed to get out the damage and get his ultimate off. And then picks up the kill on Scream at the tail end after the ultimate was not available. SOT tried to rotate into support, has to disengage with his ultimate as the ONI Warriors pressure inwards. Neil a little bit late, too late to leave here. Takes a ton of damage from that backflip into the damage from the Spirit Arrow on top. Secures a kill for Neilmar, so it's Neil for Scream in the jungle.
One hammer. And that's really, like, the deficit behind Dardes hurts, but that's where some problems really start to arise, is everybody else on the team hits Baronic harder.
A lot of focus on the right-hand side here. Bobby's back to the right-hand side again. Makes some sense because, well, the Fury's already down, so you can't really do anything about that anymore. So why not pressure this side? A lot of focus on towards Nika here. As you can see, SOT has a 2-level lead, and now Nika's trapped between a wall and a rivery rock place, I guess. Still sustains up enough for Neil to now rotate in and give him some support, but it's not going to be enough to keep Nika alive. Can Cubo Fred punish this? And he's going to look at Scream again. Remember, Scream, no bead so far in this game. Did elect for the Aegis and gets immediately punished by the Fenrir, who now is on a double kill. Bobby going to try and leap away and continue to survive. Has to use his beast defensively. All the while, Dardes gets to just keep pressuring poor Baronic in mid lane and keep pressuring enough to get a tier 1 tower. Warriors are playing very well today.
And across the map, it's the map play specifically. That was what was really good in game 1, is that mid tier 1 really opened up a lot more doors for them. I don't expect anything big to be happening in the duo.
Bobby stuck around a little bit too long in this lane, just wanted to clear out that wave and keep the pressure rolling. Instead, he didn't recognize the Cubo and Neil were still hanging around. This is opening the door now for Dardes to take the Pyromancer pretty much solo here, as the gold will continue to gain in their favor. For the past year, with how well he's been performing, obviously Pink comes into play, but this is the time for Dardes to really see and show why a lot of people have touted him as one of the best mid laners to ever do it.
And not only that, I mean, what a perfect meta for him, right? If he's going to be playing Hunters, that's what he did so well a few years ago, so it's not even surprising. And right now, it's just a little quiet because he's waiting on the item. Same thing can be said for Neath. Same thing can be said for Stuart.
Well, Bobby hasn't got beads because he used them last time round. It looked like Cuvo wanted to take the bone to his shed, but instead he had to bring it back towards Neil, and that gives a window for Bobby to escape, but it won't be enough at the end of the day. Stuart gets a double whoop, but won't get one on Vote and has to return fire with the ultimate. Vote's kind of dodging around, thinking about re-engaging there, but instead the Warriors will fall back and take this tier 1 tower on the left-hand side, using the power of the AMC and those basics to bring it down. They could even look for a tier 2, because the rest of the Scarabs are not around the area.
Plus, you get that coerce buff. It's not going to be the ult, it's not going to hit everybody, but you throw it onto AMC, he's got a hive right next to him. Yeah, that's a lot of power to knock down a tower with. And so this is just the good control. I think a lot of this is Stuart, unfortunately, is going to still need time to come on. Have to now because he's 0-4. Bobby, it's the most unfortunate scenarios because each time in any other team composition, he gets out of a lot of these engagements, but Cuvo just has the perfect god to continue chasing him down. And that's where I have to say, yeah, the 18% win rate the Scarabs have on Yamoja this year is starting to show itself.
Still has beads available as Bobby gets trapped in a pit here. Cuvo has to try and leap away back to safety. Did consume his beads to do so, but gets back towards his team more importantly. I think he was more than anything trying to get the beads out of Bobby, who did a good job of just holding it there, going, no, you know what, I'm going to hold this. I know I'm relatively safe and I've got backup around me. But 11-2-0 for ONI Warriors. All 11 kills in this game are on the back of last year's World Championship jungler, Cuvo Fred, who has really struggled this year to find form. What a time to find it.
That's maybe the best time. I can guarantee the Warriors are all really happy about this. Although you can't see that in their player cam. It's going to take a little while.
It's very try-hard serious mode in their face. Like they're all locked in. As a group, Baronic in mid, backflips away, chases on from Cuvo Fred. And I was going to mention the biggest thing about this thing for Fenrir, not only is he pretty decent against the Yamoja, but against the Neath, backflip is so telegraphed. Very easy for him to close it down and find himself another kill.
It just feels like it slots in almost too perfectly to what the Warriors draft is in order to chase down what the Scarabs have and all these kills. I mean, even that, you know, the lack of damage that Cuvo was taking because of just one hammer, I guess maybe that tier 2 shield helping out a little bit, but the amount he's dealing still to someone like Baronic to scream with the level advantage that he has, it has been a huge shift in favor of the Warriors. And yeah, sometimes I don't always like it when all the kills are on one person because then you kill them, it feels like the team could fall apart.
True.
But everyone's getting their hands dirty for the Warriors. They're not just letting Cuvo do it alone. He's got help.
Completely agree. In the jungle now, you can see Scream in a bit of an awkward position, looking to wrap around. But Dardas is there. A good hammer from Neil, and the bees to follow up are causing problems. Riptide did buy him a moment to allow Scream to get a sash, but it won't be enough to escape the clutches of the ONI Warriors as they continue marching on. Good news is, Dardas got himself a kill. Cuvo looking for a solo against Baronic in mid lane, and Baronic ain't getting any help anytime soon. There's not much you can do underneath there as he will now fall down, giving Cuvo Fred his 13th kill of the game.
Simply because of the pace of this, I want to throw out there, if you can get, so the highest kill count in a single game of Smite is 24
on
for one player? Yeah, for one player.
I'm so glad you're so nerdy, by the way, with all this information. It's so good.
I just got to keep it somewhere.
Yeah.
With the way Cuvo's playing, that's a realistic number right now. Like, that is a number he could
24?
hit. If they continue fishing, well, I mean, 11 more.
Is it 24 he needs?
It's 24.
Okay.
So 2 team fights where he gets every kill. Okay, maybe it's not as realistic as
I mean, I was going to say, it could happen if it wasn't for the fact I'm not seeing the Scarabs here contest this Fire Giant on the right-hand side.
There do have to be fights for that to happen.
Agreed, that's what I'm saying. And I think the biggest thing, though, is you start to realize Scarabs are in an awkward spot now. You've got Bobby in mid lane just trying to farm up a bit of experience in the mid lane. Doesn't even get to his second relic so far in this game. And that's a big one, honestly, just to get that second level 12, hit that second relic and have an opportunity. It's going to be the Warriors up against Phoenix line. Unless Scream and SOT try and make something happen against 4 here. The rest of reinforcements are on the way. Darda's still alive, but did use beads and Aegis. SOT went for the tail end kill, but still gets stripped out and taken down. Where is the backup from the team? Well, Bobby came in, gets a kill, but falls down to Vote. And meanwhile, Baronic's going to fall yet again to the Fenrir ultimate as a triple kill goes on. This could be the end of the game again. And now we're going into a quadra kill for Vote MBK, who turns up to the fray very late in the day. What a weird set.
I mean, what a game right now from the Warriors. There's no other way to describe the way it's shaking it out. And I have to double check for myself. They're running on pace for fastest game in Season 8. This was hands down. I mean, it's a great game from Dardas. You get a good shift late. You get a good shift from Vote. But this was all Cuvo.
Yeah, all Cuvo all the way. But realistically, we say all Cuvo. The God
with
was
help.
great, the composition was good,
Yes.
and they played around the aggressions that we saw coming out from the Scarabs.
This month
And
in
the
Smite.
You do one Bloodbath segment, and you think you get to call the shots on whether or not it makes it in. It should, though. You're
I
right.
said you put it on your Bloodbath segment.
Yeah, you told me to. Ask me next time.
Okay. Break it down.
Yeah, the early game of this one was a 1v1 between Cubo, Fred, and SOT. SOT, the only Solar Scarab, looking good in the early game of this one, and Cubo, Fred, essentially 100% kill participation, and for the first 10 minutes, I believe, 100% kills acquired as well.
Yep.
I think we could pretty easily lay this one at draft diff for the Solar Scarabs. The Naja did not do well. I don't know if anyone could have
You feeling
predicted that.
vindicated?
No.
You called that from far away.
Yeah, well, I think just about everybody, I'm sure the whole chat did too. I mean, Naja doesn't see a whole lot of play for this reason. I was going to say for good reason, but I think, this reason works there pretty well.
Yeah, we didn't get to see much out of the Freya. I mean, this is tough now to break down for the Solar Scarabs because there's so many picks in that draft that I was excited to see how they play, a competitive game. Yeah, just take a look at the post-game stats there. That'll be 13 kills to go, please, for Cubo Fred at 13, 2, and 3, 15,000 damage. The fact that the damage numbers were even close, surprising. SOT, of course, on the Milan, you're going to be doing some decent damage numbers. But this has been...
They do win the early game, and then they lose out in Game 1. Game 2, they go to a completely new look, something we haven't really had any opportunities to evaluate this year. Some flavorful picks like Naja that I never want to see again. Freya through the long lane was pretty interesting. Didn't really get to work out there either. So in Game 3, what are the Solar Scarabs going to fall back on? They've got maybe like one more style. If they're lucky, they'll get the Kali. Never mind, they won't get the Kali.
Haven't yet.
Solar Scarabs, we do need to see a completely new look. From second pick, maybe they can bring it.
Let's recontextualize this. If the Solar Scarabs lose, they go down 3-0 to the ONI Warriors. They are not out of Worlds. They are not out of the Worlds placement round. They just have to go up against the Winter Dogs later on this week in what would be a knockout matchup. Of course, life much, much easier for you if you're able to win this set, one game away from a confirmed spot at the Smite World Championship. But what a... I want to rewind, Miff, to the beginning of Season 8. We get these rosters locked in. We're talking about these teams, and we assumed that the ONI Warriors,
super team,
but before we knew how the year and location and all that would shake out, we figured that this ONI Warriors team, a mix between some world champions and a very, very good SSG team from last year, would be one of the best teams in the league. And they have struggled all year long. And the biggest question mark of all would be, can they capture some of that potential when they come into studio? 2 games does not make a trend. But it does show you that this team is able to do what we thought they were capable of at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, they're playing much better than what we'd seen in the recent months. The ONI Warriors struggling in the last set up against the Solar Scarabs and now doing anything but. That said, the Solar Scarabs got themselves a very strong top 2 selection. The Olaron has mid to long lane flex potential. Camazotz being one of the tried and true counters to Olaron, as well as just a plug and play jungler, means that you can take it away from the ONI Warriors as well as just kind of adding it onto your own draft. So I like what the Solar Scarabs are bringing here, but I think it really is dependent on where this Olaron lands. I've seen it a lot more in Stuart's hands than I have in Baronic, so maybe the Solar Scarabs showing their hand a little bit, saying, hey, we might just go back to 100 in mid.
Where do we land on...
They are.
And they are, because Baronic, remember, for a while there during the stretch of full 3-game or full 5-game sets that the Solar Scarabs team went on, there was a lot of Charybdis in mid for Baronic, and so that's something that the Solar Scarabs are comfortable with. Where do we end up landing, though, on Olaron? Because it feels like for a while, Sanctified Field, such a strong ultimate, counterable by certain picks. Cthulhu became very popular. Anyone with one of those, a CC Immune ultimate that you can just walk in and out of the Sanctified Field became very popular. Do you see enough from the ONI Warriors right now to give you confidence in their composition going into the Olaron?
As of right now, Achilles can avoid Sanctified Field with his own ultimate, but you really don't want to use Fatal Strike for that. Hachiman does more often than not use his own ultimate for disengage, and it's very good for dealing with the Sanctified Field. But as for dive specifically onto the Olaron, I don't think they've got that just yet. Once we get a better look at their jungler and the rest of their selections, maybe they're going to shore that up slightly. But generally, with Oleron heading towards the long lane, you don't need to concern yourself with them overly so in the early game, as long as you're able to exploit the rest of the map, which is why we see Charybdis in mid. That's potentially the safest hunter in the game right now. So it seems to me that the Solar Scarabs going for a completely different style of play. Camazotz is going to be acting as a bridge in the early game, just making sure that these heavy scalers, Oleron and Charybdis, do get to a point where they can become threats on the map. This is a much more late-game slanted team composition from the Solar Scarabs, which is a squad that I generally associate with early-game pressure.
And we have not seen much from the facilitator of that early-game pressure. Scream so far this set showed up a bit in Game 1, not much in Game 2. And I wondered what direction the Solar Scarabs would go with their final ban there. Because between an AMC, a Neath, and a Soul, all three of those would have fit in nicely with a Hachiman who's already locked in, plus the Fafnir. And the Fafnir has worked out for the Oni Warriors up to this point so far. So I wonder if the Solar Scarabs just kind of had to ban out that Soul there, because that would have been a good pick for the Oni Warriors down the stretch. Do you still see some opportunity for a double Hunter-esque composition here for the Oni Warriors, something they love to pair with this Fafnir? Do you need double Hunter to make Fafnir feel like he's got value, or is Hachiman plus Faf generally enough?
I think Hachiman plus Fafnir is enough. You don't necessarily have to go towards double Hunter. If they do, On Her comes to mind as a mid lane selection. That's something the Oni Warriors have played a couple times in the past. But if I had to speculate right now, I kind of want to take a guess towards the Solar Scarab Soul lane selection. Hades has been banned out a couple times this set already, and that's still available, so we could see the Hades come through. Mulan has a pretty good performance from SOT. Wouldn't be too mad if he goes back towards that selection as well. So the Solar Scarabs have got some options available, and ahead of them, they might even elect to kind of wait out on that Soul laner and get SOT his counter pick.
And they could. Sylvanas is going to be the pick here, so it does look like solo lane will be waited on just a little bit. Sylvanas, have not seen it much this weekend so far, not in Group A. One game played. Sylvanas was a pick for a while that Inbound loved. Maybe still does, right? But hasn't seen the same level of priority over the course of this weekend that we were seeing towards the end of Phase 3 through the Phase 3 playoffs. In your mind, is Sylvanas still in a point where there's some value to be had in that pick? Why maybe are we starting to see the priority drop a bit from where he was?
Some of these other Guardians just perform a little bit more consistently than Sylvanas. I think if you're going for a pressure Guardian, Yamoja is really at the forefront of that conversation. Otherwise, Sylvanas probably second best in class. And when you're matching Sylvanas up with an Oleron traditionally doesn't have the best ability to clear out waves. The second ability is the only one that's unblockable, so as long as Fafnir is standing in the middle of the wave, you really can't clear out. Sylvanas helps out a lot with that, still gets value from the Lotus Crown. Meditation synergizes well with this god as well.
Pat yourself on the back. Hopefully the mic picked that.
Yeah, I pat myself on the back, chat, just so you know the canon here. Look, I think Sylvanas is just fine. It's a flavor pick for
the cannon in your arm?
No, the cannon, like, well, yeah.
Oh, like C-A-N-O-N.
These cannons, but like, you know, literary cannon.
Literary cannon. Got it. Look, I'm all for gassing yourself up. You got some cannons over there.
Hey,
don't sell yourself short. Hunbat's On Her. That's going to round out the draft for the Oni Warriors. It does end up being double Hunter and Hunbats, so triple Hun. Two of them Hunters, one of them Hunbats for the Oni Warriors. And Gilgamesh is going to be the final pick for the Solar Scarabs. And so...
But Dardes really likes On Her
On
mid.
Her, yeah.
We were talking
It's
about
kind of a
carries and mid.
throwback,
Yeah,
isn't
this
it?
is like the thing that came to my mind.
Pre-pandemic, let's put it that way, because that's the real last time we saw it successful towards the middle lane for Dardes. And obviously now he's back around in the US, able to play in the studio, and goes back to the Anheri mid lane again. And Baronic has already eaten an impale into the wall and gone, okay, yeah, this is going to be a matchup for me. In goes Cubo Fred straight away, looking for first blood and gets it. Set up in tow by Dardes as he leaps in and starts to put the pressure on Scream 2. Already, the wars have begun.
Now, there's a lot of ways to break that down, but Cuvo just held W. Realistically, what I'm thinking of, and I'm kind of torn between two mentalities. If I were the Scarabs, you know, there's two ways to approach this. One is last game was so out of control that you just mentally reset.
Yep,
okay, cool,
exactly.
whatever. The other side is, wow, that was a really bad 2 games. How do we bounce back?
You gotta forget.
That's the one that you got to get out of there, right?
Yep.
You can't really focus on it. And it's hard to bounce back from 2 like that. But it seems like, especially with this draft, they've given themselves a much more stable composition. Downsides, that first blood, especially going on to Cuvo once again, and this time it's not a trade-out. He just gets the kill. That's going to be a huge benefit and a huge boost for him.
Best time to hit Charybdis, though, is before he can get his base abilities online, in fairness, because one of the biggest problems is once he's got that Whirlpool available, he can get him out of anything almost. So having that flexibility there, the aggression from Dardes early, followed by the blink engage from Cuvo, has now opened up a bit of a window where Boronic has to check himself a little bit more towards this mid lane. And now we'll see what the Scarabs can do. So far, though, left-hand side is in their favor in terms of wave clear with this Sylvanas alongside the Oleron. They expect to control the lane a little bit more so, but this could cause some attention to be paid from Cuvo Fred on that Hon Bats.
I mean, this is a great lane for it, too. Pretty much anywhere outside of mid, because like you said, with Whirlpool form and then going into the Maw a little bit later, too much CC immunity in mid for Boronic, for that Fear No Evil to really feel like it's going to have anything. Honestly, once he hits level 5, I think the same thing for Solar Troll. That Bat Out of Hell is just really good for getting you out of things.
Nice damage on Vote there on this left-hand side, but Dardes has rotated in from the mid lane because of the pressure he's managed to find himself. Inbound now surrounded and under pressure. If Boronic made a call, it wasn't heard by the Scarabs, I feel, there, or expected to be as quick as he was on that rotation. The mid laner Dardes making an impact in duo and relieving a ton of pressure that the Scarabs had had.
I could see Dardez's name. I saw the on her model. My brain still auto-corrected it to being a Hunbat's gank. Like, there was, in my mind, almost no reason for on her to be there, but that's such a good gank to get. You take away the pressure. I mean, inbound is the lane clearer for this. It's going to take a while for Oleron to bounce back.
It feels like from game one, it was a little bit slow to get to the track and get off the starting block. But after that, the Scarabs haven't really had an answer to Warriors who have been very much growing in confidence every game. I mean, we saw the Cuvo Fred rear game last game, right? It was fantastic. And then to see now Dardes going, okay, we're doing well. Nice little pull from Bobby there, putting some pressure on Neil. Still has that underhanded tactics, though, to jump away if he needs it. Won't need it for the time being, though, is that Vote alongside Neil should be getting closer to level 5 ever so slightly than that of the Scarabs, but the Scarabs have to be careful on that left-hand side because Cuvo's here. It's a beautiful Fear No Evil on both. Bit of a split difference on targets, though, but the health bar of Stuart is dropping lower and lower, and that hammer over the wall from Neil was ridiculous. It sets up the kill, and they'll let Inbounds survive, but they do take out the Hunter in lane.
Neil on land. It just seems it's something different. I don't know what it is, but it just hits different. And I mean, you get a great stun from him. Like you said, a Fear No Evil that feels like it's going to go awry because they're one person attacking inbound, one attacking Stuart. You have a duo lane that's ahead. There's not really a good choice here. And even if you do go to the duo lane, everyone you can drop kick has a leap. Same thing, I guess, in mid, realistically.
Yeah.
It's just so difficult to choose a target. And so I'm looking at SOT, and I'm looking at the damage this Camazotz is going to provide in the late game to make the difference.
Well, I'm looking at Scream right now, who's rotating in. In fact, SOT's damage that came out there, and now Nika under pressure did use the ultimate already. Fear No Evil's available. Will be leapt away by Scream on the tail end as SOT dives on in. Most of the tower aggro was on Scream there. Nice pickup response from the Scarabs. Meanwhile, mid lane, Dardes under a lot of pressure here. Will survive the damage coming out from Bobby, who rotated in. And Cuvo is stuck between a rock and a hard place. Will escape for now. Neilmar is here. The chase is still on, though.
Yeah, no mana really to work with. That's the last overhand smash he has.
And now the monkey toss came through, but Bat Out of Hell was available, as was the somersault, though, from Cuvo.
Neil's going in.
Neil's still looking for this kill to turn it around.
No.
Didn't realize Boronic was behind him, though, and has to try and survive as long as he can. The Maw will connect to the tail end from Boronic there to make Scarabs answer back and find 2 kills. 2 important kills in my eyes, Gore, because it gives them a sense of hope.
Yeah, that is a great opener. Plus, you get a kill onto Solar Troll, who I think at this point is going to be one of your most important members. It's not just keeping Nika down, which is a huge deal, but realistically, finding maybe kills outside of the front line. Like, if they can get Dardes, Cuvo, or Vote in this next engagement, that's going to be one of the biggest pickups. Scream in the jungle leaps on in. Looks like he was going to friend towards Dardes, but it was actually Neil who gets knocked up again. Neil still under a lot of pressure, doesn't have his ultimate available, and will tumble down. Gold Fury not available, though, just a Scorpion on this left-hand side. It will be taken by the Scarabs as long as there's no craziness at the tail end there, which there wasn't. Scarabs get the Scorpion and a kill in the jungle on Neil. Great comeback from Scarabs so far as SOT still duels with Nika on this right-hand side. And you can see Cuvo Fred was busy in the jungle trying to strip away some buffs. More off the mark from Boronic there towards Dardes in mid, who just walks away. And as soon as they see Cuvo around the same area, they think better of it. 8 minutes in,
all square.
It's weird to think about this, but those might be the most important Oracle Harpies that could get picked up in the next spawn of them, because that vision's going to be crucial. You can see a lot of deep wards from the Warriors already on left-hand side, but right now, at least for the Gold Fury pit, it is in favor of the Scarabs, and they've got a lot of rotationary ward placage to make sure they can pick up any of the rotation from the Warriors.
Say no evil, use it's all on Bobby, because Bobby was kind of stuck in no man's land. They're trying to support Baronic and watch the wrap around, and instead, the Warriors go, well, might as well just take out the support, and with the man advantage, going to aggressive, get in mid lane. Baronic forced to beads, doesn't have that whirlpool available as he gets hit by the overhand smash. And now the Warriors head towards the left-hand side. Gold Fury could be available, but SOT's rotation, can he get something here?
I mean, the damage is there, but it's not enough. Maybe onto Neil, but can they get any more?
Oh, yes, they can. Baronic gets one, and SOT is going to fall down to Vote at the tail end as Nika rotates in. Stewart's a little bit too far forward here and may get chased on. Scream forced to drop kick in, and Darnes beads it and turns his attention back towards Scream, who leaps away from the execute from Nika. ONI Warriors still in a good health bar situation here to maybe find something else. At the moment, it seems to be towards the middle area, but I do want him to go towards gold, I feel like. Vote instead, going to stop Baronic at this red buff.
That's a really elongated fight when you think about the fact that Inbound died, respawned, made it back in towards the tail end of it. But it's still ultimately 3 for 2. The Warriors come out just slightly ahead, and losing Neil and just Nika, just the front line again, feels a little bit better overall. But, you know, Cuvo is in a precarious spot there. Doesn't necessarily have a huge Fear No Evil to change things. You see a couple of missed stuns. Dardes doesn't get the Impale, and maybe could have shifted that to be even more in favor of the Warriors. But it's good retaliation, even though they had to fall back.
Impale connects. Desert Fury does too. There was no beat available for Baronic as he goes back. Scream did get into the fray, but there was nothing he could do under the circumstance. Great individual play from Dardes. Now Cuvo Fred will toss that monkey towards Scream there, but won't jump on in. There's a lot of pressure on this tier 1 tower in mid lane. Bobby trying to rotate into support, but it'll be too little too late. And now the Warriors find an objective on the map.
The best secure in all of this. I mean, maybe like a good Fear No Evil if everyone's beads out, but Baronic, it might have the best ultimate secure throughout this game.
I think it's so slow though with the Moore. I kind of feel Desert Fury
time it so hard.
is probably the better one. It's definitely always a question.
Like, they're not great either way.
Yeah, but I'd argue Desert Fury, speaking of Desert Fury, gets used made on Baronic and then turns to Scream, slams him into the pillar and says, no, friend, you will not rotate round the back. Keeping them busy on the back foot. Meanwhile, Nika's just trying to hold on this right-hand side, which doesn't surprise me. Camazotz against Achilles, definitely a sustained battle, but obviously a little bit more so on the side of that Camazotz that's going to continue to keep him pinned in this lane. But Nika's going to be happy as long as the rest of his team aren't struggling elsewhere on the map. The Gold Fury dance is going to continue, and I think this is going to be a big one with how this is playing out so far.
I think the biggest difference this game than what we've seen, and it's honestly kind of small in the grand scheme of things, but a tower being down on the solo side opens up opportunities the Scarabs haven't really had so far this set. I think for the most part, most of the Warriors' towers have remained standing, and that gives them at least some sort of win condition in opening.
Cuvo Fred got aggressive down the red buff, opening a window for the Gold Fury to be started up. Screen drops the ultimate in response, gets impaled backwards, leaps on in towards Vote, forcing a reset. Fury now reset as Neil under a lot of pressure in a very terrible situation of the Sanctuary, but the Fear No Evil, as Gore said, was pretty huge. Not enough to keep Neilmar alive though. Execute blocked by Bobby. Impale off the Mark II. The Scarabs are running for their lives and the Warriors are hunting them down. Stewart will be the first to die. Scream tries to get aggressive against Cuvo Fred. Sets up Baronic for a kill as Darnes takes out Scream. It's an absolute mess in the jungle here, but it looks like the Warriors are coming up big, or are they? Can Baronic make it happen? Whirlpool for the damage, secures one, but Darnes has got the Desert Fury, and it's a 3 for 4 exchange, and the Warriors could even look towards the Fury after.
What a bloody mess that is. I mean, just bodies left afterward. Dardes is actually healing up here as well, and that is going to be the thing that I think slows down Inbound. He could come in, but I don't know if this is the fight you want.
No, because Bobby was doing the right thing here. He's going to force a bit of a reset around the Gold Fury. It's not going to be dropped. It actually is by Nika, and now Dardes might get the kill on Bobby because of it. Funny enough, I don't think that's going to be enough to stop him doing it, though.
It slows him down.
He's going to go again.
Okay, if he walks in, that's one Neil Moston. And
I want to vote in chat. If you were Bobby now, would you go in? I think I agree with him on back in there, but there's definitely a few people who are like, well...
I go in probably, but then I don't care.
But then even if you die, you're probably going to lose Fire Giant if you do, is the thought process, you know?
So that is still in favor, Warriors picking that one up. And I like it, but the way they're playing, especially now, look at the ults coming back up for the Warriors. I mean, this is a good spot to really start to show face.
Pyromancer started up by the Scarabs here. Neil's here, so it's Cubo for with a Fear No Evil connected with 2. Scream's pinned against one forever, it felt like. The Scarabs will get the Pyromancer, and Scream will leap away. Warriors, though, thinking about getting aggressive, looking towards the tree in the jungle. I'm not joking, it's a Sylvanas, it's not a tree, but he might fall if he's not careful. And you will hear him scream. The Fire Giant is fine, though, as the Pyro did fall there. And Warriors, well, they're still looking good here.
Ults are about to be back here for Scream, so they're in a good spot to keep up this amount of pressure in the jungle.
I kind of want to go back to the fight around the Gulf here, because I think the biggest key on that one is Neil will leap away and be fine on this left. I tell a lie, Scream's going to go in. They are hunting Neil down, who doesn't have his ultimate available. And I think that's what Scarabs recognize. Neil is weak, Neil is dead, and now Nika came in to support, and now he's surrounded. Has his ultimate available, though. May need to use it to escape the dangers, but reinforcements are on the way. Dardes rotates in, misses the Impale. Nika finally uses that ultimate. Cuvo Fred doesn't really want to drop the Fear No Evil here as Scarabs start to claw their way back in around the FG. Neil being dead for 20 here, Gore. It could set something up at this FG.
Yeah, it makes things a lot easier for him to rotate in. We can finally see what Stewart's damage is going to be like. The burn should be good for the Scarabs, but Fear No Evil's still available, and that's a great peel for Cuvo.
What can SOT do, though, to keep the 2 hunters at bay? He's had to fall back to his team, and Scarabs go in aggressively towards him. Dardes leaps away, so does Vote. SOT all in on Vote, and Vote grabs hold of his horse and jumps away back to the Fire Giant for Scarabs. But look at Cuvo Fred hiding round the corner, has the Fear No Evil, drops into the back line looking for a kill on Baronic. Meanwhile, the swoops are out from SOT looking at Dardes, and Scarabs get the FG. SOT gets Dardes, and now Nika's surrounded by 4. Cuvo's losing a trade 1v1 to Baronic 2, and now Nika pulled back in by Bobby, and the Scarabs are back in this set.
I mean, a 3 clean kill. They have 5 towers to go through, but this is going to be a lot of gold in their pocket and a huge swing on the map for them. This is a great setup for the rest of the game for the Scarabs, and exactly what you need, right? We've talked about how game 1 and 2 were so difficult, and honestly mentally difficult to bounce back from, but they still got most of their relics. They're still feeling fine, and they're going to be able to burn down. They still got 20 seconds before anybody's back for the Warriors.
We started the game, and I was saying mental's a big part of this for Scarabs, and I'll say the 3 kills early on that they went down was a problem for them, but they managed to scrap back into this. They're looking at a Phoenix in the mid lane against only 2 members left of the Warriors. They're not going to look for the end. They're going to go for the safer option, the secondary Phoenix on the right-hand side. This should go down relatively quick with Baronic already working away on it. Neil will hit that hammer, but immediately Scarabs are happy with the damage they have done, and they've still got plenty of time left on this FG.
Yeah, having 3 minutes left to work with. Oh yeah, you got 2 Phoenixes in the span of a minute. That's perfect timing for you.
They're stuck in the middle with you, I guess is the best way to say that.
It's easy pressure for them, right? Like, I mean, you see this 5-man grouping on left, and they don't have to worry about it because look at where the minions are, and mid and right. Like you said, they're going to be pushing up just fine. And honestly, if you don't get attention to it from the Warriors, that's Titan damage for free for the Scarabs. You get a single pick and one of those waves in the Titan room, and you could end the game.
All 5 on the left-hand side. Cuvo Fred treading water in the mid lane here, making sure 5 minions don't pull it down there. Keep it on that right-hand side lane, though. No one is there to defend. They will sneak through to the Titan room. And as soon as someone shows their face there, Gore, you'll see aggression. Or maybe earlier than that. Bead's already used by Vote. Scream jumps on end. Look at the crit damage towards him. And what a Fear No Evil too! Great Fear No Evil came through from Cuvo Fred as SOT tries to frontline. Stewart picks off the monkey in the jungle, and now we're in a 4-on-3, and the Scarabs FG is waning off. The Warriors step on in. Nika blinks towards Stewart. Stewart trying to give as good as he gets in the backside. The Pillar of the Desert Fury causes so many problems, and that forces the Aegis out of Stewart. But out of hell, though, from SOT. Looks at Dardes, who got aggressive, surrounded by 4 members, ends up falling down, and the Scarabs have to run. But look at the Titan room. Keep them busy. Dardes sees it, but can Dardes defend it? I think he will. He should be able to, but goodness me, a backdoor opportunity is on the cut. No, he can stop it. He'll stop it. Calm down. Don't worry. He's got it.
Okay.
I casted a lot of games, okay?
That is not enough health for me to say that you felt confident in that. I disagree.
I was confident it's not going to fall now, but I am confident that we might see... Well, that's not confident then, is it? I think we might see a Camazot's back door is definitely on the table here. And what do you do against the Battle of Hell? There's nothing you can do. The Scarabs, the only one on the right-hand side is Scream. Could be a bit of a split difference here. think this is the correct call from the Scarabs. Don't let off the pressure yet. A lot of relics on cooldown for both teams, though, Gore, too. Just look at them. Blink just came up for Scream in the jungle. He might need it because Dardes is giving as good as he gets. 3 members strong on the left-hand side, though, from Scarabs, and 3 members from the Warriors are there to answer that back. And now, we wait to see what the SCARABS play is going to be, because we know what the Warriors is. Hold the line.
Yeah, survive. That is their only objective right now, is just try to stay alive for the next couple of fights. This might be one of the easier Fire Giants, though, if you're looking at the SCARABS right now. Ultimately, you've got good news for the Warriors, and that is that you have the right-hand wave. That's the last wave of Fire Minions. You can push that up and then be in position to defend this Fire Giant. But ultimately, there's 5 towers you still have to burn through. Your Phoenixes are half health, and your Titan has nothing to work with.
If you're Warrior fan, though, you're kind of happy because your Phoenixes are back up, so there is a chance for them to contest this. All the lanes are kind of pushed out for a second or two. This is the opportune moment for them to look for an FG fight. But if they lose it, the game's over. But let's be honest, there's not much left to defend if they don't. Nika goes on in as the FG is now reset. SOT focus on uses a bat of hell to just peel himself away and force a reset again. SCARABS aren't getting overly aggressive here. Neither is the Warriors. Both teams just kind of staring each other down for a moment or two.
Honestly, Bat Out of Hell being on cooldown might be one of the bigger factors right now. Just knowing that Solar Patrol, 1, can't dive the backline for free, but 2, doesn't have that safety, makes it a lot easier to kill him.
Inbound didn't find the pull there. There's the sanctified field. Neil was the one trapped in. FG goes down to SCARABS. A huge pickup from them. Can they find Neil too is the question. Neil still has his ultimate available and will use it at the right time. Doesn't feel it used. More connects and kills Neil more. Or should I say it was Stu at the tail end. But Bobby gets destroyed by the Fear No Evil. And Cuvo jumps over the wall to escape the death of Scream.
Big kill.
Vote picks up Stu.
Huge kill!
Sporonic. And the chase is on from Vote on his horse. The slow connects onto SOT and Scream. They try to split the difference here. And I'm not sure what Warriors choose to do because all lanes are pushed the negative way. It might just be a walk down mid and reset. It's a Fire Giant to the way of the SCARABS. There's only 2 members with it. And there's not a whole lot the Warriors can do for a minute.
That's about the only way the Warriors can lose the Fire Giant and stay alive in this game. That is such a huge kill to pick up on Stewart and Boronic to slow things down.
A few minutes ago.
Yeah, scared.
It's back to full.
Gave me a heart attack watching those minions.
It was close, but now we're back to a situation where SCARABS could have technically closed out this game with how it was looking. If one of them would have gone towards that Titan, funny enough, it might have been a different story for this game. Lots of things for the SCARABS to review so far, but they're not even out of this game just yet. Pyromancer goes down, Fire Giant just spawning up as the junglers meet in the middle lane, keeping check on one another.
It's weird to think about this, how much control the SCARABS have. You have 2 Hunters on your team if you're the Warriors at 6-1 and 9 and 6-1 and 8. Like, they're doing so well for Dardes and Vote.
Yeah.
And yet it's just this small amount of control. It's Neil and Nika. Whether or not they're able to get this frontline presence you need, or unfortunately what's happened for Neil, he's just died so often early on. His tankiness right now, that 0-6 and 10, that is really the key as to whether or not they can win the fight or not.
Seen a lot of Fire Giant dances in my time, but with the state of the map right now, this is a huge one for either side, and I understand waiting for a cooldown of a pull from Bobby to initiate something, or maybe a lovely threaded hammer from Neil. It's going to be a lot of inconsequential damage with the amount of healing we've got in this right now, but anyone makes a mistake, this game could go either way. Look at Cuvo Fred sneaking round the back here. I think he's in check by a ward as Dardes steps up. Bobby takes a brunt of damage in the FG pit. Frenzy was also popped. That's
a huge kill!
And getting it onto that Kamazots, who doesn't get to the sky, was monstrous. Warriors immediately reset after the Sanctified Field, and they step up to the FG. But what can the SCARABS do to respond?
With no fear, no evil, that's a huge zone technique, but they're just going to go in. Look, Bobby's isolated. He's going to be the one who's getting taken down.
Execute from Nika onto Bobby. Scream up, downs in place. Stewart tries to step up and help, but meanwhile it's Boronic at the backside going down to Cuvo Fred. Big crit from Stu though takes out Cuvo, and now he might get punished before taking him down, and Neil at least. Dardes will see Scream limp away, but 3 members left of the Warriors can come back and take the Fire Giant.
If you have Neil here, I think that is the end of the game. I think you're able to go at least take some of the towers, but potentially run straight into that Titan room. Nika instead, you still have both Hunters, but you don't have the same push power. Luckily, you have something to make up for that. You get an enhanced Fire Giant, a good defense, a great fight, and now you're in a solid position to start finally getting some of these towers down, make up for the gold that admittedly isn't as outrageously in control of the SCARABS as you would think, and you get to open up some Phoenixes and finally equalize this map a little bit.
Crazy fight around that FG pit, though. As soon as Bobby was the focus, I should say SOT was the focus, first of all. And a huge Fear No Evil. The lack of beads in that in terms of his build was definitely a risk factor of getting hit by that Fear No Evil, and Cuvo Fred found it against the wall and set up his team to make a 4-on-5 very early.
But it's going to be Cuvo walking up to that door and blinking behind the SCARABS, or to the side of the SCARABS, or wherever they happen to need their pressure, that's going to open up the door for him. And I like the fact that you can see some wards trying to get placed by the SCARABS, but there's sentries right outside. Wherever they could try to place one to get vision and predict this, they're just not going to be able to let it last.
Well, it's a do-or-die situation right now for the SCARABS before falling to the lower bracket. They have to win 3 straight, and they had moments in this game where they were seconds away from winning this game and moving on to a game 4, but right now they're trying to deal with the Warriors, who are the ones on the assault. Left-hand Phoenix knocked to half health so far, both Hunters over there. Tell a lie, one of the Hunters was in mid, it was Dardes, who did use his beads there. That'll keep him pinned back for a minute or two. FG, 2 minutes left on it, as the left-hand Phoenix has been whittled down below half.
This is actually one of the biggest deals. The reason 2 Hunters is so great is Dardes can put pressure on mid, Vote can put pressure on left, or you put them both in one lane, and that Phoenix should fall fast.
Bobby looks for the ult and doesn't find what he was after there with the pull. Thought he was going to connect with it, but didn't. I think it was a good beads usage from Vote that prevented that. Meanwhile, mid lane, Nika and Cuvo step up and get aggressive, but SOT and Scream are on site, and it's Nika and Cuvo in trouble. That drop kick, though, didn't connect as Cuvo goes back in with the monkey toss. Left-hand side, Phoenix still okay, waiting for a minion wave, and now it's Cubo and again Nika in.
Good stun.
Looking at SOT, good stun as you mentioned, looking to whittle this down.
It's opening up the Phoenix, right? It's not necessarily looking for the kill, they're just trying to make sure that somebody isn't where they need to be. Whether it's the mid Phoenix or in this case the left Phoenix, something is going to fall down, and this Fire Giant feels worthwhile.
Left Phoenix will fall, FG wears off. Back to the FG we go again. This time round, it's the Warriors with a power play, with that left-hand Phoenix being down. The good news is it's going to take a minute or two for those 5 minutes to make a difference, but who do you send there to defend?
Say, the left side Phoenix is the most important Phoenix to take down, and it is exactly because of this. It takes so long to rotate in, so long to clear that wave and deal with it to get to the FG fight, that this is already a great positional advantage for the Warriors.
Realizing that left-hand side was being dealt with by Stuart there for a moment or two. There is a full another minion wave coming in,
it's going
but
in.
You can see Stuart has to come back to this fight. They were worried about losing the enhanced Fire Giant again, because that would be much more doom and gloom for them. SOT wrapped around by Nika, can't find the stun. Scream went in, looked for the drop kick, but Nika juked it out and survives for the time being. The dance of the third FG continues.
And I have to say, perfect timing on where that fire wave was, because half of it goes and tanks the wave, the other half goes into the Titan room. Ooh. So it doesn't get as much pressure as they could want. That allows the SCARABS to regroup.
Solo Troll going in on Dardes. Dardes using his ultimate to try and buy time, but the dropkick caused some problems. Still have the beads available. Stuart gets the kill on Dardes. A big pickup from the SCARABS here, but look at Cubo friend in the back with a fear no evil on 4. He will still alive though, SOT. Meanwhile, Vote is just being left a free cast, but he's not getting enough damage off to force the SCARABS back. The 4-man mountain that's left are rotating in.
What a pull.
The pull from Bobby sets up Scream for a kill, and Nika can only watch on. Nobody needs the Fire Giant now. SCARABS are elated. They're feeling good. Baronic Dead is just chilling in his chair going, okay, guess we're watching. And the smiles spread across the SCARABS faces. They have battled for 40 minutes. They have controlled the game at certain stages, but couldn't close it out. And right now, one fight at the FG, and that's all she wrote. Nika will buy as much time as he can for his team, but it won't be enough to stop the SCARABS keeping themselves in this series.
That is a huge win for them. A lot of draft. It admittedly takes way longer than I think they wanted it to.
From the Solar SCARABS perspective, because the big story of this game is probably like 10 to 15 minutes from when these replays are taking place, mid to late game, still even a little bit further from this, but these are telling the story of how Baronic on the Charybdis put together a pretty good game as well, and SOT on the Camazotz Myth, there were moments where maybe the ultimate wasn't used in the perfect spot, or the play wasn't perfect, but the need for that Camazotz later on in the game was so pivotal. The ability to dive that back line gave such an edge to the SCARABS.
Yeah, SOT was there to just create space for Stuart, man. Yeah, that.
How do you win a fight through that? What?
Because it didn't hit Stuart, all right? That's the reason we're following him. The damage output, the triple kill. Stuart was allowed to play very aggressively on this Ola run at times. The pulls from inbound were very clean throughout. But you're right, man. It wasn't easy for them to get there. The Solar SCARABS, they were cooking with fire for a long time, but they nearly got burned.
Dardes went 7-2-13, 6-2-12 for Vote. So both of the carries for the ONI Warriors did just fine. 8 deaths for Neoma. Kivo Fred mentioned how the ultimate started to hit their mark, had to die a few times to get there, but big damage numbers out of a lot of players in this game. SOT top in the game at 40,000.
Trying to pick some of those pivotal selections that they had in games 1 and 2. The Solar SCARABS are a team historically that have not had a lot of drafts that would work for them at the same time. They would come in and week out with a completely different look, and they'd have that one style that really rings true. Now, I would argue the Solar Scarabs have got a couple of viable compositions that they can run, which is going to make it a lot harder for the Oni Warriors to play against them. Seems like already, though, the respect's on Stewart.
And we are zooming through this first wave of bans here. Stewart takes an Olorun ban. Veronica, I assume, takes a Charybdis ban. Kali is just not allowed for Scream at all this set. On the flip side, AMC continues to get banned out. What the hell? And for the first time this set, Myth, the Fafnir is going to get banned away. That's been there for Neilma every single game so far. And after a win against the Fafnir, finally, the Solar Scarabs will take it off of the table. Camazotz has been first priority. It's been the pick that has just kind of squeaked through the first 6 bans and has often been picked first by teams that we've seen play so far, not only today, but this weekend in general. Oni Warriors hovering and locking in the Achilles, and we saw some great moments from Nika on Achilles Myth there in Game 3. Hoping to relive some of that in a winning effort here in Game 4.
Yeah, very nearly found some solo kills in the lane, had some great transitions in the late game team fight as well, and I think you can expect a similar performance here. Achilles just about barring none. I think maybe Mulan might be a larger lane bully than Achilles, but besides her, Achilles is going to be one of the most aggressive selections you can get for yourself. I'm not surprised to see Camazotz as the first selection for the Solar Scarabs. I think he is the most plug-and-play god in the game right now. You put Camazotz in the jungle with any team composition, you're not feeling bad about it. It doesn't matter what you've built around this Camazotz. He can shift up his attention. He can play this aggressive jungle style. You can flex him into the solo lane. I wouldn't argue against him in mid, honestly, considering what we've seen from some of the SCC representatives recently. So Camazotz, I think, just a great selection to stall out your draft a little bit and get a better look at what the Oni Warriors want to bring.
Well, that man right there, Neilma, we've talked plenty about his ability to play in these LAN environments, the success that Neil has had now in back-to-back years, winning the Smite World Championship 2 years in a row. And in the year last year, that is not unlike the team that the Oni Warriors have put together this year. Some struggles throughout the regular part of the season.
They're memeing me, dude. There's no way.
I mean, was the issue with Naja in Game 2 just Naja or the draft around the Naja on either team?
Well, I'll say this.
Is there any draft where you're excited about Naja?
What year is it?
This year, 2021.
No, probably not. I'm going to be completely explicit.
We are 2 weeks away from, like, 2022.
Already, I like Naja in this composition more so than the last time we saw this god locked in. Because you're at least landing into a dark portal from Izanami, right? You've got some silence and some burst on the tail end. So you've got something that you're setting up for.
Still some options in the mid lane too, right?
You could, but the struggles that we saw from Naja up against this exact pick, the Fenrir,
right?
what was stifling before the point of the game where you're setting up.
It was the fastest game of the year.
The fastest game of the year. He's like 1 in 5 at 5 minutes. Naja struggles mightily. I would argue that the itemization for junglers right now doesn't really favor Naja. You might, if you want to play, like something Hindu said during the game was that solo assassin style where he's getting the kills on his own, then you're itemizing towards things like the Malice, the Deathbringer, and that's not exactly on the tree for junglers right now. So, Naja getting locked in is wild to me, but it's Spracklin. So I guess we just got to expect these things.
Yeah, but it was Spracklin in Game 2.
You're right, man. Why is he doing it? I don't know. I'm throwing myself life rafts. Stop popping them.
You're right. That's on me. I'm popping the lifeboat that you've given yourself. Though this is, he said Poseidon worked in scrims, didn't quite work out in the game. No, I'm just trying to. I'm throwing a life raft back to you. I've popped it. I've patched it.
You're right. It could have been Poseidon, and that would have been worse.
No, what I'm saying is, after a horrific performance on this pick in Game 2, there's a reason we're going back to it in Game 4. There's some level of confidence for some reason.
Clearly.
And with Poseidon, it was scrims, and so maybe with Naja,
it was
scrims.
Game 2?
No, it's scrims, Miff, it's scrims. Maybe it was working out. Well, you know what? We'll wait and see how the last 2 picks for the Solar Scarabs round out. Then maybe there's a world where there's a little tonal shift from Mifflin going into game number 4.
Maybe.
Solar Scarabs need it. Remember, this is not a knockout set yet. The next matchup that the losing team will play will be a knockout set. So both teams hoping to avoid that. Anhur looked great for Dardes, as you mentioned, despite a loss in game number 3.
Such great play. astounding, really.
So let's see if Dardes is able to wind back the clock to game number 3. If it ends up being Dardes, there's still some mid lane questions to be answered here, Miff, notably with the Naja. Are you drafting something now for Baronic where you feel like you have the burst, the execute threshold on the end of the Windfire wheels? Because there are still plenty of mid laners with that possibility left after the ban phase.
Yeah, I've got plenty of experience playing against Baronic back in the console days, and he could play things like the Kukulkan. That's something he was apt to go towards back then. Poseidon was one of his picks as well. It's not Sobek. That's not the mid laner. God, I hope not. We know that Baronic likes the
channel
Yanis.
Lurking in the waters. Full.
Okay, this was the wild card I was never expecting.
It's a Morrigan!
Baronic is going wild in the P's and B's, somehow shifting the Izanami into a Tiamat. Not exactly the follow-up you'd hope for a Windfire Wheels. It's similar to Dark Portal in that he's going to fall into like the bipedal stance stun,
there's something
maybe.
he's stunned. There's the volley of damage.
You could set up the Minotaur minion as well and have that charge him down. It's a much better composition around the Naja.
Because he is also around a 20% win rate with this Tiamat. It has not been a very successful god for them.
No, I don't think he's been successful this season so far in my eyes. I mean,
really,
when it first came out, it went very well, but consistent nerfs towards Tiamat's kind of put her on the back foot in my eyes. She's going to be late game, but can you get there? And I feel Scarab's composition goal, looking at it, kind of leans towards that late game style, relying on the Naja and the Sobek in the early stages to just weather the storm, and then allow them to transition late and feel a little bit more potent than what I can see on the side of the Warriors.
And the good news is exactly this, right? With the Pluck and an Izanami, you should dominate. You should control this duo.
Stewart going to go in just to dash and try and keep the pressure rolling, but can't find the basics in time to bring Neil's health bar all the way down. And Neil did hang on to that meditation there in those early stages. Kiva Fred being pinged out already on the left-hand side as he looks towards the Oracles there. As now, with how the second game just, sorry, how that third game just went there, Scarabs definitely will have a bit more confidence in themselves, a bit more momentum behind them, and it's on really the Warriors to answer back alone at the moment. But I do feel like Slaney and the boys of the Scarabs here have done a good job of coming back into this and having a competitive comp together that's going to scale well into the later stages. 5 minutes in though, and so far we're starting to see the first rotations out from the mid laners and junglers now heading towards the middle area a little bit more so as Inbound I should say, sneaks on in. And it looks like he stripped, he didn't strip away that red buff at all. He got given the one from good old Baronic on that Tiamat.
Yeah, and that's the other glory that Tiamat brings, right? Admittedly, if you're a support, you'll get your green buff, which feels nice, I guess, but you'd rather have that red. And so that's a good feeling.
Interesting play between the two, and it didn't work out well for Cuvo so far. But who's got cooldowns after the up-down? Nobody is the answer. It's actually Bobby who was rotating around. Takes a ton of damage from the Desert Fury from Dardes. Now Neil in an awkward spot, but may continue on. Bobby's getting kind of low here. Sashing from Scream. In rotates SOT2. As does Baronic get aggressive, but now Baronic's out of position. Scream's health bar's a little bit too low. Execute used by Nika, but blocked by SOT. Pressure relieved. Scarabs, meanwhile, though, did take a tower. Sorry, that was a Draugr on that left-hand side. I was confused what that noise was for a second. And now Nika now marching into the jungle. No one dead just yet between the two. A lot of relics exchanged.
I think there's a lot of really good play, especially in that jungle 1v1 that you get to see.
Yeah.
But the things that stand out to me are Neil and Dardes, because Neil with a perfect step, but Nika's in trouble.
Nika is in trouble. Remember, no ultimate available, but he might have enough damage to just kill Scream in time. 1 for 1, could be a 2 for 1 in favor of the Warriors now, as the bat has to leave the jungle area, get back to the tower line, and just as the blue buff spawns too, means that Warriors find a small nugget of advantage on the right-hand side. Dual lane fight, though.
Vote has to run away, but he drops the supernova. That's just a good fight from Stewart, though. I think that's you get to see Dark Portal, but realistically, you get to see the level advantage, and that maybe Crusher working its way in a little bit there as well, just giving him some damage and attack speed.
Early stages. It stretched it to 800 gold. It's nothing to write home to mum about just yet, but you can send her a text and let her know we're on the way.
Yeah, you're feeling solid so far with this foundation, right? You're just building up for what you can have. It is still questionable when the true team fights start, and that brings me back to that last skirmish that was in the jungle, because there were some small moments, Neil just taking one step back to make sure the ring doesn't bounce between him and Dardes. Yeah. So, dropping the Dharmic Pillars to go for Peel, but then Dardes hitting a good Impale just to separate the team and separate the Scarabs from the Warriors. And that kind of team play that the Warriors are executing at really won that fight for them. And the SCARABS since then found picks. They've been able to find 1v1s, small skirmishes. The true grouping is what I'm going to need to see from them.
Look at those walls from Cubo, just keeping full vision in this jungle. Blue buff is spawning, and SOT has to base here. It's going to be a few seconds on that blue buff, though, and Scream is in the area, and just has to watch his P's and Q's here, I would say, especially with not having SOT around. Looks like they're both going to hang here, those SCARABS, making sure they can secure the blue and not lose it. But Warriors are still finding things in the jungle. They take the Scorpion, and now they look towards the blue and SOT.
And I love this. He has no health, no mana.
And maybe he's got no life, but there's a nice Narjar ult from Scream. Takes Cubo up and down. The follow-up damage from the Battle of the Hells there. Nika used the ult for the execute, but couldn't find the kill. SOT survives. Cubo survives. Blue buff is down and goes the way of SCARABS. It looked like a lot of fun, but nothing really happened.
I mean, ultimately, yeah, everybody walks away with what they wanted there, save for all the kills that could have happened.
Yep.
And so the Warriors get pushed back. I mean, maybe missing out on farms, small though it may be. More difficult for Cubo to start running away and find these picks that they're used to, which keeps Tiamat safer, it keeps the Izanami safer. It just feels like it's harder to get kills against the SCARABS.
Nice backstab from SOT to avoid the Impale. Donna's lost half his health already. Narjar takes Cubo out of action to try and get a bit of room for SOT, but it's now Cubo under pressure, and the swoops are on, but who's faster? Is it a bat? Or is it a dog? Well, guess what? No, it's not the dog, I guess. Especially when you can spit a distance like that. Nika getting very low, and SOT turns his attention there. Neil also. 3 members of the SCARABS chasing. Where is everybody else? Well, they're not in the fray. Nika might die under the tier 2 tower. Baronic will at least take down Neil Mar. And now Bobby's hunting Nika, but he's on his own and won't continue the chase. Meanwhile, in the dual lane, we got a battle. It's Stuart versus Vote again, and Stuart's winning this one so far. He's going to dash in. The cooldown disapparates off. The dark portal connects, but it's not enough damage just yet. Slow down from Stu, uses the beads to continue the chase, and Stu is making a mark in that dual lane.
I mean, that is a huge play for him. Now inbound's getting aggressive. Darda's in trouble again.
And Darda's surrounded, gets the Desert Fury off, but Bobby can tank for half a year under that tier 1 tower, and SCARABS are up 6-1. Tier 1 tower under threat. Cubo's kind of watching on, looking for somebody, waiting for reinforcements. Nika's on the way too, but Cubo has no ult for a few seconds. Tier 1 falls. Nika's here. What can he do?
He's trying to chase him down, but he has no opportunity for the ultimate. Doesn't get the execute. They have nothing to follow up.
Too healthy. Couldn't take out SOT. Like we said, SCARABS now finding more and more momentum. Tier 1 on the left-hand side just ends up going down there for Stuart too. And the opportunities now for SCARABS to start exploiting this map advantage could come into play. They're at the Gold Fury, but I don't think Stuart could do it on his own. Meanwhile, we're watching on with the Warriors here at the Pyromancer. At least they're going to take away one of these neutral objectives. They're now going to run away at less than 20% health, and you've got the advantage of the Camazots to follow.
And the true key, I mean, we've seen Cubo running away, using his leap, his brutalize, and his ult all to disengage, as opposed to any sort of fight starter. So that's just been a huge shift that has slowed down the Warriors dramatically at this point.
And now you saw the Gold Fury going down there, so SCARABS just extending the lead a little bit more, control the map, but Stuart's getting a bit too confident on this left-hand side. He does have backup though, and that could have been a bit tricky for Vote, who eats a dark pull, as well as a beautiful sash from Scream. Vote should end up falling down to Bobby, as meanwhile Scream takes Neil out of action and keeps him in an awkward spot. Vote held on for quite a while there up against Bobby, but not long enough to stay alive, as Scream takes out Neil. Another 2 kills for the SCARABS. Where and what can they do next with this lead?
At this point, it's not often at 14 minutes I get to talk about tier 2s, and honestly, looking at the horizon with the speed this game's going, Fire Giant is honestly on the table. If they had been on the right-hand side after that fight, that would have been an easy objective.
Feels like a battle of junglers this one too, because I feel the last time we saw the Fenrir Narjar, it was the Fenrir that came out on top. This time round, it definitely feels like the Narjar is being favoured. Tier 1 in mid, taken down by Cubo for the ONI Warriors, just trying to get some of that global positioning back for themselves, as now the SCARABS are going around the jungle, stripping what they can. Purple taken, red not available to be taken, as they now fall back 8-1. We were talking about record setting here. I mean, Warriors nearly did it in a game earlier. SCARABS looking good.
There's no way you get to walk that pathing that Cubo just did. I mean, caught by a ward, so will be vision.
Look how much you have to use.
That's ridiculous that he was able to get the speed and then just happened to be crossing the pillar at the exact moment necessary to make sure Scream couldn't see him. And now he gets his own speed buff. I mean, that's good farm to be able to strip away.
We're so early in the game, it might just be a waiting game, which is buying Warriors time, buying them time to catch a bit more farm, get those secondary relics online in the case of Neil Marr, but it doesn't look like Scarabs want that to happen. Sashing from Scream there. Pluck onto Dardes.
That's so good.
Hit straight into a wind. Fire wheels. Where's the damage follow-up? There it is from Bionic. Beautiful play from the Scarabs, and a red buff to follow suit. Or is it? Cubo Fred's taking it to Stuart, and Stuart's still alive. He's got back up there now. Vote's in trouble, and Vote should tumble down. Cubo will escape with the barest amount of health, as now Warriors are on the run. Scarabs are finding big wins.
I feel like I have to give Pluck of the Year to Inbound, because that was through the pillar in the wall, and he hits the carry, not the tank that's standing right next to him. I mean, that is beautiful to start things off there.
No big complaints there. That's all I'm going to say.
And then all of that, I mean, you get Stuart virtually dead, taken down, chased away, and both Cuvo and Vote try their best to kill him off, to get rid of this level 17, now level 18 Izanami. And they had to watch as Stuart gets surrounded by teammates that peel for him perfectly. I mean, that was great for the Scarabs.
Gonna go for the FG here, 17 minutes in, only 1 kill on the board for the Warriors, and that's on Nika. He's the nearest to the FG right now, but surrounded by 3 already and forced out by SOT predominantly. Cuba Fred trying to strip to the back and look to hunt down Stuart. Stuart jukes him around, forces the Ragnarok on cooldown. Nika looking to base as SOT keeps threatening the backline. The FG still very healthy at the moment. It's gonna take some time this, but it looks like Warriors have given up the goose with the fact that Fenrir is not around anymore and Nika was poked out. The FG goes to the Scarabs and they make full use of the advantage they have at the moment.
If Cuvo had gotten that Ragnarok off onto Stuart, I mean, he had no beats, no survivability. That could have been such a big kill, a big pickup for them. In a very close game. Now a stomp in favor of the Scarabs.
So then game 5 again, a very close game?
A very close game where the Scarabs win, I guess, is the mirror for the set.
We'll see. Bobby tanking up the Phoenix line early on here as all 5 members of the Scarabs start to group up. Tier 2 tower is available on the right-hand side, but no minions there. Scarabs feeling very confident at the 20-minute stage with their advantage to go into the Phoenix line. Scream and Bobby taking up a genre of the damage at the front line. Has to use the lurk in the waters there, though. Inbound back to safety again. Needs some resustain as a pause comes through from Neil Marr.
Twofold thing where it's Neil Marr, and he's on a defense at the Titan room. Like, I think this is a moment where it could still end up being favorable for the Warriors. It just depends on the ult usage. Neil doesn't have those Dharmic Pillars, though.
Neil also being able to pressure out a little bit there with the rest of his team to force Bobby back, but Bobby's health bar is okay for the time being to step back in. SOT's going to tank this up. Warriors have elected to negate continuing that engagement and instead fall back to heal again, but they've got to be careful about this middle Phoenix. Minion wave is here too, and I believe that's an ONI minion wave with them as well, so that will help them a little bit more on survivability of those minions. Tell a lie, because a Stellar Burst will remove that momentarily. SOT though, he's tanky actually at this stage at 20 minutes in to be able to hold that line, especially with that Mantle of Discord with those extra protections. Scarabs are hunting.
Mantle of Discord, because Camazotz needed more survivability in this case. SOT is, going to be almost untouchable. Not quite untouchable.
Scream sashes Neil Marr, takes Neil Marr to the sky, getting hit by the Tornado 2 from Baronic. Solo Archol goes in, looks to swoop it into Neil. Instead, turns around and Neil will survive. Middle Phoenix down to half health as Cubo gets on to Stuart, brings it back, but where's the damage? It was almost too little too late, but Dardes gets credit for the kill. The rest of the Scarabs dove in.
This is huge
for the Phoenix, and Warriors are back in this one, boys. It's Baronic now on the run against the whole team of the ONI Warriors. Scarabs have been routed.
That might be game.
No,
they've got 30. Look, they've got 30 seconds before inbounds back. Longer than that, you run down mid, tier 2.
So many towers, dude. There's so
that
many
Titan
towers.
is gonna be pretty tanky. Hold on.
Phoenix guaranteed.
Phoenix for sure.
Phoenix guaranteed. I think they may go for it. Wait, hang on. I'll look at FG. 1 minute 37.
It's more now. 20 seconds left for carries. There's a lot of damage behind Stuart.
They can do it. Well, Bobby's up. Bobby's going to have his ultimate available too. The health bars are relatively low. It's going to be
It's taken a while to get here.
Well, they've got no minions either, so it will take time on this Phoenix.
Yeah, no,
this will be a
stop
Phoenix and reset for sure. You had me doubting myself.
I
write the script and I'm there doubting myself.
I'm not used to seeing the Phoenixes go down 20 minutes. If this is a 27-minute fight, they probably win right there.
for sure, for sure. Respawn time's just a little bit too quick at this stage. Tiamat can use those minions to just slow the course of the stem of the bleeding on that minion wave in mid and the fire minions. But more importantly, it's a lot easier to defend that one and still reach the fire giant pit. Something that the Warriors are going to have a different tail to deal with on that left-hand side. Look at the march of minions down left right now. Phoenix is also due to respawn soon.
Yeah, it's actually almost necessary. That is a thick wave. That is a huge amount of damage that will get onto the Titan. So, yeah, someone has to back.
SCARABS know.
It's going to be vote, and that's such an easy. It's a 4v5. This is an easy call for a Fire Giant.
SCARABS know, and they go straight into the Fire Giant pit, down to 75% health, sashing onto Neilmar. The focus from Naja has been towards the frontline support as a Dark Portal drops down from Stuart too. Neilmar is eliminated off the map. SOT got to Dardas and put the pressure on, and Dardas at least tried to get his Desert Fury off before dying. Meanwhile, 2 members now dead. The SCARABS go back to the FG, and now we're back at it again. Phoenixes are alive, but Cubo goes in on Stuart. Stuart goes re-aggressive, realizing he's got an opportunity now. Cubo's in trouble here, and more than anything, he's buying a bit of time, I guess, for some respawns.
This is actually big. Now he's with the Fire Minion wave. Look, with Scream chasing him, he can't push. But yeah, this is actually a really good call for him just because it brought, again, maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds, but even still, Neil's going to be back up for a defense now versus before where it would have been an easy 3v5, 2v5 if they had gotten Cubo.
Well, it's a 2v4 at the Phoenix line now. Bobby flicks Nika into the damage of the Tornado from Baronic too. Nika uses his defensive ultimate there to stay alive again, but the middle Phoenix is still alive. Neilmar respawns, drops the Dharmic Pillars just to dissuade them from continuing. All 3 Phoenixes up. Middle Phoenix of Warriors, sorry, of the SCARABS is still down, but the Fire Giant and all 5 members of the SCARABS. Crazy 20 minutes.
Yeah, Fire Minion
advantage to his army, leaving the fact there's a Tiamat unchecked.
Yeah, and so far, especially now that the relics are back up, that is very bad news. The fact that Baronic can survive from just pure tankiness that Tiamat has, but also having both of your relics, your own self-peel, all sorts of stuff. And the focus on Stuart hasn't been getting kills. I mean, he's 2-1-4. They finally got 1, and it was at this left side Phoenix, or around this Phoenix defense last time around. They need something bigger than that if they're going to try and defend not only this one, but their mid Phoenix and their Titan.
It is a weakened Phoenix on this left-hand side, so no surprises to see SCARABS step up. Sash onto Nika from Scream as Cubo jumps in onto SOT. SOT taken for a ride, but there's not enough damage. They can't kill him. The Banner of Hell came online, and just maybe SOT gets a kill anyway. Neil trying to frontline can't do much more. Left-hand Phoenix goes down, followed by Scream. Windfire wheels in celebration there, Scream. I saw it. As now they're onto the middle Phoenix again that has a minion wave this time, and only 3 members of the Warriors alive. 2 of them without their ultimates here, Gore, and no Phoenixes left in this middle area even.
You still have to be careful. Vote and Dardas have a lot of damage, but you do have so much to keep them down.
They're all in looking at Vote, but Vote's going to get his Disapparate off in time and regen. The Titan, meanwhile, will not get the opportunity to do that. SCARABS have brought us back here to a 2-2 situation. We're all tied up once again, and it's basically 1 game separating them.
I'll admit, after game number 2, I was doubting the SCARABS at all, not just for this, but potentially for the entire week.
I'm not going to lie, I did kind of message my wife and said, hey, you can come pick me up in about an hour, because it's about that, you know, I'm going to have to. But I'm really surprised that was the case. But these guys, there's a bit more confidence brimming there. Yeah. I said after that 3rd game, they needed to sort their mental out. Game 4, they came into it with the advantage of the winning that situation in game 3, that longer extended game. They took it to the Warriors that game, and they never really let up.
And the fact that they were able to get that amount of pressure that early on, keep it going. I mean, 1 little stumble there towards those Phoenixes, but it was so well-timed that the most they lost was a Phoenix. That's perfect for them. And now they're in a position to continue rolling forward in this next one. Again, potentially, if they're mirroring the set, could be a close game, but still SCARABS favored, especially with the way they've been playing the last 2.
Who you guys got in chat? Who do you think is going to take it? We'll find out after the break. Game 5 coming up shortly.
That's right, 2 teams vying for their spot at the Smite World Championship, playing right now in a Game 5. That'll decide it all. We got a Game 5 finally here this week. And the Smite World Championships will be taking place during the High-Res Showcase during that first week in January. That is January 5 through 9. And look at the schedule we've got. High-Res Showcase on the first day of that week, Throwback Thursday. I would assume Thursday of that week. Then the SWC bracket starts up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Very excited about that Thursday. Plenty of content and stuff to look forward to there. Of course, the High-Res Showcase has a lot of new information the upcoming year. And then, Miff, how could you ever hate the SWC quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals? I don't think you can, but that's what will round out that week. The SWC and the High-Res Showcase, January 5th through 9th. And, Miff, I will bestow upon you the almighty broom. There's no, like, gracious way of doing this. So
You're giving it to me broom first? We use this, Dave.
Oh, yeah,
turn around. Yeah.
No, I have to push it to you, broom first?
Uh-huh.
There you go.
Hey, Jordan, are you in here? Someone hand me this broom.
Say it.
Reverse sweep coming right up.
The most lackluster reverse
Can you focus?
Sweep coming up.
Wait, I already have the broom, Jordan. What are you going to do now? Get behind the camera.
Get on camera, camera face, Jordan. You've
ruined the bit.
You should have given him the broom to walk away with.
Well, I don't trust him anymore.
We're misutilizing Jordan. I'm sorry. The point is, Miff, we're going to a Game 5, and it is after another win by the Solar Scarabs. Rewind the clock like an hour and a half at this point. We're thinking the ONI Warriors are going to have us out of here in a straight 3 games. The fastest game of the year in Season 8. And then the Solar Scarabs take 1 in Game 3, and now another in Game 4. And Stuart, Miff, he came up big in Game 4. Solo kills, the Dark Portals to follow up. The perfect Naja follow-up. We wondered what it would be, and the Solar Scarabs found it.
Well, I owe an apology to all the Naja fans in the chat. My B, extremely chillin' dude voice.
That one person is pretty
yeah, that one guy is popping off on me right now. Look, Scream played it incredibly well, but I think this game really does come down to the Solar Scarabs as a whole. A 5-headed monster. Every single individual player was doing great. SOT was making individual plays out of the solo lane. Stewart was soloing his opposition. Baronic was making early dives happen in mid. Bobby hit just about every single pluck, and one of the best plucks we've seen this year. And Scream also landed his ultimates.
I mean, look at this from SOT as well. This is, the game's ceiling moment. When SOT gets picked up in the Ragnarok, not enough damage from the rest of the ONI Warriors.
So
and he drops down, gets into the Bat Out of Hell, ends up healing up to just above half HP anyway. And so SOT now in back-to-back games has made the solo lane look pretty comfortable there for himself. Top damage in this game as well. I think it was a similar story in Game 3 for Solo or Troll. It's almost scripted. Isn't it, Miff, the way that the Solar Scarabs...
you know it is.
Well, right, it literally is. To whatever you think your team's best strategy is, rather than trying to counterplay out the opposing team and what they've been drafting.
I think that the ONI Warriors are still going to try and address some of the things that they have been answering from the Solar Scarabs so far. This Kali has been a staple of their ban column the entirety of this set. I was expecting that to continue to be the case. I wouldn't be overly surprised if we see the ONI Warriors continue targeting out Stewart and Baronic. It was just this last time around. Ola run immediately into the Charybdis. I think that's likely going to stay the same here as well. I think the Solar Scarabs are in a position where they can immediately go back towards that Naja style of play as well, as crazy as it sounds.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Right.
And the ONI Warriors, they know that they can beat it. They've done it before. They did it very convincingly. It's just whether or not they slip up in the early game. The Solar Scarabs won every single lane. They were up 10-1 at like the 11-minute mark.
Yep.
That's not P's and B's. That's not macro play. That is individual play that netted the ONI Warriors an early game loss.
Right. That game ends in, 25 or so minutes. It could have ended in like 20 minutes if the ONI Warriors didn't put up a good defense, didn't kind of reset the game there. And so hats off to the ONI Warriors for that. But it could have been shades of Game 2 for the Solar Scarabs if they were able to close that one out a little bit cleaner. Got the win nonetheless. Does not matter how long it took. Achilles ends up being the pick here. Mifflin Camazot's banned out. Maybe we're considering picking that up first. ONI Warriors don't want to deal with it. Continuing to value this Achilles for Nika. Have you seen enough that now warrants what I believe is a third pick in a row for Nika on the Achilles.
Yeah, I think so. Achilles is just such a consistent pick. It's got great engage, good chase down potential. It kind of de-incentivizes going for these health shield styles of build. You don't really want to play that Book of the Dead Zeus on the side of the Solar Scarabs, for example, because you have to contend with this Achilles execute going forward. So I think not only is it a strong pick, a great lane bully, it's a good dissuasion tool for some of the pieces that the Solar Scarab showed early on. I think if they take Naja here, that's pretty wild. That's so crazy. Because that means they think that the Oni Warriors would have banned it, but you could have even saved it for the next phase. It just feels like if you are going for Naja...
playing Naja?
No, 0% chance.
I don't think they're picking Naja for Cuvo.
And I'm not even certain that the Oni Warriors are banning Naja, right? And even if they are worried about a Naja ban, they could have taken it in that third pick selection. The Solar Scarabs have plenty of priority out there that could have been taken. But with the Oni Warriors going for flavor picks themselves, I guess you're not losing too much value.
Right. Remember, the Dark Portal from Izanami was like the follow-up on the Windfire Wheels.
Yes,
and
sir.
ride the hot hand. Stuart has had a fantastic game on Izanami. Now you're trying to back that up with another good game. And two picks we need to talk about here, Miff. We'll get to the Fenrir in a moment. Discordia for Dardes. This feels like the reset point in a lot of the sets for the Oni Warriors, where they go down, they give Dardes something that's a little less conventional, but something that's more conventional for him. And so I think I have higher expectations for this Discordia in Game 5.
Yeah, and I think the Discordia passive as well is going to play a major role here. If I am reading this right, I think it is likely going to be Fenrir in the Soul Lane with Naja in the jungle. That means that Achilles will likely be benefiting from the Discordia passive more often than not. And Fenrir doesn't really have the best 1v1 up against Achilles. Likely going to be a situation where you're either maxing out Seething Howl or you're maxing out Unchained first so that you can take the trade, because Brutalize never works against Achilles. You're always stunning that one out immediately. But with Achilles having Discordia passive, you've got a lot more threat on the field. That execute's going to be a little bit easier to come by. Fenrir going to struggle with sustain and lane, which means that there is also the potential that this could be a Naja flex in a solo, and then he can utilize that massive burst heal from his second ability to kind of bait out the execute. Very interesting draft from the Solar
Any world
Scarabs.
where this is a Fenrir support?
Yeah, it's Bobby, right? Like, Bobby likes those aggressive picks. Fenrir support could happen.
You're assuming more likely in the solo.
I think it is a little bit more likely in the solo.
Oni Warriors agree. Take away the Ganesh and the Terra with 2 of their final bans. And now that'll leave the Solar Scarabs to reveal a little bit more here. Still need a mid lane and what we assume is a support for Inbound. Inbound played the Sylvanas. And it had looked good for Inbound in the past. And so that is certainly an option here moving forward if the Solar Scarabs do want to lean into one of their support's more popular picks. Looking focused, though, are the Oni Warriors, and that's important. You try to read the faces of these players in the booth after going up big, now going down big, feel maybe a little bit of extra pressure on the back end of this set. A little less chair punchy, a little bit more take a deep breath and get things done here in Game 5 from the Oni Warriors, but it's got to be a breath of fresh air for the Solar Scarabs to be able to turn this set around and keep it contended after the way the early games went. Tiamat is hovered, and that is what Baronic will be playing. And so similar follow-up to the Naja from what we just saw. Izanami, Tiamat, and the Windfire Wheels did some work.
This could be a massive bait as well. I think Naja support more likely than Fenrir support. Again, both of those things incredibly unlikely. I'm still racking my brain to try and figure out how the Solar Scarabs team fight is going to look. If it is Naja jungle, you've got the exact same follow-up as you already alluded to with Tiamat and Izanami, Dark Portal and the stun from Tiamat. Fenrir's solo presence, for this doesn't help me at all. If that's a Kuzumbo lock-in, that doesn't help me at all.
It doesn't? You don't think Kuzumbo support, Naja jungle, Fenrir solo?
I think it's just as likely to be that as it is to be Naja support, Kuzumbo solo, Fenrir jungle.
That's true. I guess it could all go anywhere. Let's look at it as a composition, though. As a team fighting composition, because unfortunately we can't guarantee the way that any of these lanes specifically look.
Definitely favor the Fenrir.
Especially like for survivability and also just for, I think, his setup capabilities as well. I mean, being able to stun someone like Nika and control that lane really well is going to be fun. Plus, I think his clear is going to be nice enough that he's not too worried about it. But it is an interesting draft nonetheless from the Scarabs. And like the thing that I jump back to is the Thor they played earlier.
Yeah.
Didn't really get to do too much after he joined the team fight portion. I mean, there were a couple of ults, but realistically wasn't that big impact that you would expect to see. And so I'm a little on the fence, a little shaky about how this Fenrir will perform, but I am expecting a lot out of it because the Scarabs, especially in a Game 5, like, all seem to have their heads not about them. Like, they were absolutely relaxed when we got to talk to them. They are not sweating too hard right now.
I will say, though, looking at the composition and the way the Scarabs have played today so far, there's kind of a clear trajectory of how this team works. We've got the jungler in Scream, and we've got Solo or Troll, who are the frontliners. They're the aggressive people, getting in there and causing problems. You've got Bobby, who's doing relatively peel work on the back line, it's felt like, in this series. And meanwhile, obviously, you've still got Stuart and Baronic, the two carries, looking for protection to get their damage off. It's very systematic. It's very telegraphed now of they are the focal points. Do you see SOT go in? Do you see Scream go in? The question is, from an ONI Warriors point of view now, do you get aggressive against those two and shut that down? Well, Bobby's going to get flung in and actually bring Vote for a ride, and Vote says no with those beads. Or do you go for the backline carry still, where you've got to get through the pressure from inbound on this Kuzumbo that's there to peel?
Honestly, I think it's going to be fun to see how they adapt to it, because I actually think specifically being able to go in and, you know, try to get to the backline, it's still going to be their best bet. I mean, if you look at the way the last game was going, either you kill off Scream and you stop some setup, or you got to get rid of Stuart and Baronic. But, you know, will Stuart get, you know, two? Was it two? Maybe three solo kills this time around?
Oh, Nika could be under a little bit of pressure here, but the investment into beads at the start of the game actually comes up very big for him there in this solo lane. Blue buff now spawning two, Cuvo in the area, both trapped. And around level 3, Nika with a slight lead here and healthy enough to look for this contest. And you can see Cuvo just trying to use that. What do you call that now? That invisible area? Have you guys given it a name yet?
I guess I've just called it Mist. It reminds me of the
New War Mist. Okay, that makes sense. Mist. I just wasn't sure if you guys had named it.
I don't. You know, honestly, it's only come up like twice.
Blink from inbound in, looks towards Neil, and instead Neil takes him on a ride.
What a good hit!
Bo got a beautiful lacerate in tower range to keep him there for a shot or two. The pain of the Scarabs dual lane ends up falling against them. It was Kuzumbo getting aggressive, and it was Neil Mar saying, "No thanks, you're dying instead."
A lot of good targets in this game. I mean, you kick back any member of the Scarabs, 3 of them have leaps, 2 of them have dashes, and Scream might just decide to ult you afterwards. So it's not really like you're setting yourself up for a lot of success. It's going to take a while, and admittedly probably have to be him and Neil together in order to get something that feels like it has some staying power.
Ward wars around the Gold Fury begins as Bobby gets plucked into the air, but it's actually Neil that takes a bit of damage there from Baronic 2, who was there at backup. Dardes has to jump away from the tornado, being chased down by that Tiamat. And I'm excited to see how Baronic does again this game, because I think he had a fantastic game last time round on this Tiamat and just needs to follow suit a little bit more. He's got some follow-up damage to help out this Najar. Can't find the Sash though. Kuro gets pulled in by Inbound. Bit of a split difference here by Scarabs on targets. Neil's a bit of an awkward spot too, as the Lurk in the Waters ends up falling off. No one really feeling confident in these skirmishes so far.
Yeah, not only confident, but realistically, no one felt hurt either. But I love this Gold Fury start.
Yeah, I think with the Lurk in the Waters being down and the apple from Dardes, it could be go time. The Fury's going down quick. Neil Mar getting dragged in by SOT towards his team. Scarabs get the Gold Fury here. Kumo's very low, and Scream won't be able to find the tail kill. Meanwhile, SOT jumps on Nika, trying to slow him down as Nika gives chase, looking for the jungler of Scream. He uses the ring toss for the movement speed, but it's not going to be enough to stay alive. Gold Fury for jungler. It's not as good as Gold Fury for support, but I don't think the Scarabs as a 4-man unit will be upset about that. The 5th one probably will be.
Yeah, so Scream not happy about it. Everybody else is probably feeling a little fine. And they only
you can see the level developments between the two. Slight lead for Nika in the solo lane. Slight lead for Vote in that dual lane. He was just a little bit further ahead in experience over that of Stuart. And the same can be said for mid lane for Baronic, funny enough, who had a bit of a lead moments ago over Dardes. Pyromancer goes down though for Scarabs. Nika a little bit too late to the party there, as now once again we sit in this territory of what's up next, and nobody's really stepping into an awkward spot. Bobby is the closest thing to in danger, and you can see how much he's trying to make sure he doesn't get hit by a pluck.
Yeah, that's the danger, right? Is, hey, I get a Strife into a pluck or something into a pluck, and then you can get a kill. But otherwise, especially with the way the Scarabs are playing,
look at Nika trying to trap him in. Tornado over the wall from Baronic 2. Nika presumptively uses his ultimate defensively to get away from the danger. Left-hand side, Ref Buff is spawning, and Kivo and Vote are over there as we watch the Guardians whittle away at the health bars. Nothing really to speak of. But now all 5 members of the Scarabs on the left-hand side, and now the Warriors following it in. Big Red Buff fight. Kivo in trouble. Has to beat.
Absolutely out of position, but has the leap to disengage. This is a good fallback.
Neil
now Neil's caught out.
And Neil going to get aggressed on by the Tiamat. Not enough damage yet though to kill the Sobek. And the Sobek's on the run. This is opened up a window for Bobby to die. Both supports out of the fray. Into the sky goes Nika. Thanks to Scream taking him up there. And Scream takes more damage than that. Cubo survives in the backside up against Stewart with Nika's involvement. And Vote takes out SOT. It's an absolute bloodbath in the jungle over a red buff. And it's the Warriors that come out on top.
And Scream's TKO'd right now. I mean, whether or not you even get the kill, he is out of commission for a little bit. So you have free reign of the map. Except there's not really a lot of neutral objectives to run and grab here, right? You can get lane pressure. That's going to be a big deal everywhere except mid. You're going to have some control. But realistically, it's the kills, right? You get a couple. You get a kill on the Vote, which swings a lot of the goal that was in favor of the Scarabs back over to the Warriors, and the experience that is going to make a big deal.
We did see SOT and Scream get aggressive towards Neil there, first of all, seemed to the focal point.
Yeah.
But in doing so, it opened the back door, which was allowing Bobby to get aggressed on, funny enough, by the front line of the Warriors that kind of just started to split the Scarabs up, who were the ones encircling the grouped up Warriors. Pluck from Neil, connects into a drop kick onto Bobby. Bobby pinned into a wall and has to get his ult off, but the apple will pop! And that's the end of Bobby's life. There's not much you can do with that CC chain there. Beautifully executed by the Warriors.
Yeah, just good damage on top of that. I mean, what are you going to do outside of just sit there? If you don't have beads, honestly, even if you have beads, you're probably not walking out of that one alive or happy. The fact that they're behind.
And now, what's the question going to be for Warriors? Where do they go next? Well, the Primal Fury spawning soon. Sorry, I should say Oni Fury is spawning soon and could put some pressure on the map, especially with the Pyromancer up soon after. But the focus from Warriors is round 2 at this red buff once again. Neil Mar furthest forward, looking to find where Scream was, and spots him on the corner of this Tier 1 and Tier 2 tower. SOT and Nika on the scene as well, as Nika now takes it to him. It's SOT, tries to get aggressive against Darkness, but didn't realize there was Vote waiting right behind. And SOT loses half his health. The red buff still alive right now. Nika's just whittling it down. Cuba, though, finds Stewart and he's losing that trade.
Yeah, this is dangerous. Last time around, it worked out for him, but that was mainly because he was able to get there in the middle of the fray. So much going on around him. This time around, yeah, Stewart just has good damage. You have to be very careful, especially now you're starting to see the Wind Demon come online. It's going to be up soon. And once those crits are there, it's going to hit Cubo really hard, Neil really hard. And their capabilities of staying in the fight are going to diminish.
Well, with Stewart going back to base and the position of Scarabs, they're not really here to stop this Fury going down, really, unless Bobby can slow them enough to allow some teammates in. SOT's on the scene, looking to try and get in there. Bit of peel coming through. Scarabs get the Fury away from the Warriors with just 2 of them. Nika's still trying to step in, though, and put some pressure on. It's actually focused on Baronic, who leaps away. Cubo giving chase, and now Cubo's overextended. He's going to get strapped on by Scream and Stewart as well. Cubo forced to fall back as now SOT surrounded by 4. He'll leap away, avoiding the execute damage. Cubo now picked up and taken away. It's an Oni Fury to the Scarabs and a kill. The Scarabs get in and get out.
Yeah, that was a fight that was bad for the Scarabs until it stopped, right? I mean, up until they get the Fury, and then it's like, okay, cool. Just get out of there. It doesn't matter. The fact that the Warriors chase as hard as they do makes it so much easier for them to do exactly what they did. Encapsulate Cubo and then just whittle his health bar down until you're able to get the kill.
It's probably the next thing on the cards in this one so far. As we said, it's been pretty much a calculated game, which, in my opinion, Scarabs has done a better job of. You can tell that with a gold situation. The kills, different story. Warriors have been leading there. This Pyromancer, though, being threatened once again by Scarabs. A couple of their members are a little bit late coming back, but Neil can't really do much on his own. And maybe they're going to kill Neil, but there's only 2 of them really here to try and get the kill. The Dark Portal from Stewart's good enough to silence out Neil Mar and prevent the lurking in the waters. And now all of a sudden you've got a 4v5 for 30 seconds.
And in a regular, like if this was paced the way any of the other games this set was, I'd be harping on the fact that they just dropped a lot of ults.
FG started up. Nika knows about it. He's going to have to frontline a little bit more on his own now without Neil being here. So the sash and the damage over the wall. Kuzumbo to the backside looking at Vote and making sure the pressure's on the carries. All the while, the carries of the Scarabs is whittling down the Fire Giant. In goes Cubo Fred looking for a steal. And the Warriors get the Fire Giant. Nika now surrounded by 3. Won't escape death on this backside. But the safety net, the damage has really been done, as that was Scarabs' Fire Giant to take. And they just lose Nika in a 4v5 and secure it for themselves.
I mean, being able to take the objective like that is probably the big deal. And again, that goes back. I was actually going to say, I didn't mind the Scarabs dropping as many ults on the field,
sure.
but now I actually kind of mind it, just because they didn't have as much in order to either A, secure a Fire Giant, or B, and this is maybe more important, slow things down for the Warriors. They get to walk in, they get the objective, they save this tier 2. That's surprising in and of itself. And now Cubo's split pushing happily in mid. I want to say it was the ring toss, but
well, they're saying
well,
Nika.
no, it couldn't have been the ring toss, because guess what? That's on the Scarabs.
Well, that'd be helpful. They're saying it's Nika. It looks like it's going to be Nika. Oh, I don't know. I don't know who got it. It looks like it was the damage from Gilgamesh ult more than anything else, because I felt like most of it was CC Chain. But who knows? The main thing is Warriors get it, and now it changes the game again.
Around these towers, much like you just see there, right? The tower goes down incredibly fast, and that really opens up their opportunity to get aggressive. Cubo's keeping inbound occupied.
Correct.
They're going to be in a 4v4, and I really like their odds of being able to push into this Phoenix.
Well, if Cubo just keeps him busy and keeps Bobby running around the map here. It is a forced 4-on-4, though. There's no extra support they're going to get from middle lane pressure or anything like that. Cubo could solo out Bobby over an extended period of time here, and there's not a whole lot Scarabs can do about it. They're like, guys, we can't help him. Maybe the tower will come into play as Cubo gets a bit too aggressive here. He's taking a ton of shots, and there's an opportunity for Scream to come in. Cubo is still in pressure, and he will die. And all the while, the Warriors haven't found anything on left-hand side just yet. I don't even see the Phoenix taking damage. It's taking a tiny bit, but it's not enough. Now Nika rotates to the right-hand side, and so the whole chase onto Cubo, so from Cubo onto Bobby, has resulted in the Fire Giant not really coming for anything more than a tier 2 tower.
Be the biggest favor for the Scarabs here. You've got, your Deathbringer or your Rod of Tahuti already topped off. Another Pridwin picked up here for SOT. A lot more to open up the door for the Scarabs to stay alive and deal more damage. That the Warriors, that's where those, that tier 2 and left going down. That's where that gold gets spent and where it makes the big difference.
You saw SOT leaping on vote there, and that was really good. Beads check. Are you going to beads on this one or are you not? Are you going to panic stations or not? Well, he didn't that time round, and SOT fell back. The dance of the FG begins. Ward Wars mainly the focal point. His vote takes out 2 there. SOT trades with Cubo. Fred is Bobby on the front line, though, getting plucked into danger. Great dot pull from Stewart, though, and that eliminates Neil because of it. Now Cubo, Fred surrounded, and he also the Petrify coming out from vote on the backside there, but it won't be enough. Scream's very low. Bobby back to base. Only Neil's dead, and ONI Warriors don't want to over-invest anymore. Just look at that left-hand Phoenix. So what happened to those tier map minions, by the way?
Yeah, throughout this game, because nobody has enough secure with Dark Portal down.
I've seen more steals than anything else so far. This one.
This is a good call for the Scarabs to take the fight.
FG on under pressure again, below half health. Nika frontline and Cubo trying to wrap around the back, but I think Scarabs sense it. Cubo's in on Baronic as SOT's under pressure from Nika. FG drops. Everyone from Scarabs turns tail and looks at Cubo on the backside. Meanwhile, Bobby's been left on a bit of an island, but now getting some support from Scream and Stewart, but it's not enough to keep him alive as Nika gets the first execute kill so far in this little skirmish. Cubo Fred survives, and so we saw Neil die a few minutes ago and a reset. Now we see Bobby die and a reset. Gosh, this could be anyone's set.
Well, and on the Warriors, right? You can walk in, you can start things up. You've got good damage being dealt by Vote and Dardes, so burning down the Fire Giant should be pretty simple for you. It's just how well can you zone and how well do you think you can get it. But with Finrare on the board, specifically as tanky as SOT is, I don't know if you're going to be able to zone him as well as you need to.
Well, Cubo Fred's still hanging around on that left-hand side of the map as now the FG pulled again, but this time by the Warriors. Nika and Neil frontline and allowing Vote to just whittle down the health bar. Without 2 hunters, it'll take a bit longer, but look at Cubo, look at Nika, they're in the back line, look at Stewart. Dark Portal drop, but won't really do too much. Stewart hiding inside the cloud of his ultimate, but it won't be good enough to survive. The Aegis was used, Cubo gets 1, but now Cubo goes down in trade. All the while on the backside, we saw a bit of aggression out of SOT, and he got collapsed on by Dardes, Vote, and Neil, and we're in a 4v3 scenario. FG is under threat. Scarabs have 3 members, one of them with an ultimate available to their name. Relic situation not the greatest here if you're a Scarabs fan either, but can they stop the FG being done?
I love the way that the Warriors are playing this, though. Make sure that you don't get a little too aggressive. Nika actually might be caught out.
Yeah, great damage on Nika, and Nika forced to ult defensively there. Relieves a bit of a pressure. The Fire Giant taking a long time to be dropped down here, but still the Warriors are working on it. Bobby looks towards Dardes, and Dardes forced out. Meanwhile, Scream's taking on 3 at the same time. Ring toss is huge here. Bobby blinks in to help out Baronic with the backup for Scream. He gets 1. He's looking for a second, and he'll find it. Want to give me trips, baby? no, he's not going to have the opportunity. Boronic played himself very well on positioning to stay at distance from Nika. Pressure relieved if you're a SCARABS fan. They were in a tough spot there, 3v4, and they've held their own.
The fact that they were able to go in as aggressively as they did, force the relics they do, I mean, it's maybe holding the FG a little bit too long if you're the Warriors, but realistically, it's good positioning from Scream, a great engage, then follow-up from Inbound and Boronic to make sure that not only Scream lived through all of that, but that the damage was worthwhile, the slow applied by the ring toss was worthwhile, and that setup really came to fruition. Now, you're down 2 members in a 3v5 for a Fire Giant fight. This is an easy call for the SCARABS to maybe finally get...
It's turning into whichever mid laner dies first loses, because neither of these 2 mid laners have died, and they've both played pretty effectively so far this series. Darnez! Oh no, Caster Curse! Darnez is dead! And now Nika surrounded by 5. Nika getting whittled down but gets a bit of health back. Fire Giant very low, goes the way of the SCARABS, the enhanced version. Cubo Fred into the pit, but juked away with the dash by Stewart. Into the Windfire wheels from Scream. The up down's good, but it's not enough for a kill. And now the SCARABS have got the confidence. Now the SCARABS have got a 2-man advantage, and they're heading down the right-hand side.
And again, open Phoenix. This is 20 minutes ago. They got that tower, and now they are finally able to capitalize on it. But it's this awkward position. Vote does a lot of damage. He has 2 front lines with him and an execute capable.
Can they hold?
This is a strong team, but they have to hold for 20 seconds for backup.
Going to be a dim tricky task for them. Stun from Nika hits onto 2. SOT keeping Nika pinned. The rest of the SCARABS bringing the minion wave in.
Here they go.
No focus on the Titan. It's all on kills.
There
and
it
Vote
is.
being dead is huge. Into the Titan room they go. And will you believe it? The Solar SCARABS, who were down 2-0, are going to reverse sweep the ONI Warriors in a best-of-5 slobber knocker and on to face the Leviathan.
I mean, that was a... Go back to games 1 and 2. The SCARABS got smacked down. They were absolutely out of their element in that. And then game 3, it's an arduous victory. It makes me a little shaky. Okay, cool, you won it, but it took you 40 minutes. There were some slippery moments.
Just there for the Solar SCARABS in a way that it wasn't in games 1 and 2. And the turnaround was just too swift. And you look at the macro play as well. Look at the game state going into all of these highlights. The ONI Warriors are out to a big kill lead early, but that never slowed down the SCARABS.
Yeah, at one point in this game, it was 6-1 in the KD favoring the ONI Warriors, and the Solar SCARABS were up 3,000 gold. I looked up at the screen and I said, huh. That shouldn't be the case, but it certainly was. And then from there, it was
Wait, you had to
back
look up at the screen?
battle.
You weren't watching it the whole time?
Well, I was tying my shoe.
Got it.
Why would you do this, Dave? Anyway, it just felt like, legitimately, and I know I memed it a little bit earlier, Bobby was creating a ton of space on this Kuzenbo. We talked about it during the P's and B's. This pick is actually incredibly strong into some of the key pieces that the ONI Warriors are bringing. Very often, Cubo Fred would drop, wins a Shamash, and Bobby says, oh, word, I'm a Beyblade. I'm going to roll right through there. Good luck keeping my teammates here. Or Neilma would find a pluck, and Bobby would slam him into a wall and say, hey, no follow-up, tail whip later. You know, it just felt like that Kuzenbo pick coming in the bottom of the 9th, really nice for this squad.
Speaking of whip, Bobby just hit a whip on watching himself on the replays. It was impressive.
He is feeling himself mightily.
As he should. As he should. You turn around a set like this, Miff, they got blown out of the water in game 2.
He's flexing behind you right now.
As he should. The man's got biceps like that. I'd be flexing too. God help me one day if I could get there. Please, Bobby, interview Gore. I hope you interview Bobby only about workout tips because we need him about 4 hours ago. But this one had some longer games, had some faster games. Finally, look, I just wanted a not 3-0 at some point today. We got 2 3-0s yesterday. We started off today with a 3-0. That's the Leviathans over the Winter Dogs. The SCARABS now move us into uncharted waters with the 3-2 reverse sweep over the ONI Warriors. Solar SCARABS, Mifflin, 1 set win away from going to the Smite World Championships during the week of January 5 through 9. 1 set win away, and that's what this bracket will convey. So the ONI Warriors not out of it yet. The ONI Warriors still have to play a set up against the Winter Dogs, and then we'll move on to that last chance matchup a little bit later on. The winner of that 3rd place game, 1 more chance to win a set to go to the Smite World Championship. So all eyes have to be on Leviathans versus Solar SCARABS here. You win that set, you're in the Smite World Championships, and what a gift the Solar SCARABS have given themselves. And we will see what that schedule looks like. I talk about 3-0s. We already had one of them, Sleekness over Elysium, and that means Sleekness's reward is starting off our day tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow morning. The Jade Dragons will be playing up against Sleekness, and this mirrors the severity, the pressure matchups that we had here today. Jade Dragons, you win. Sleekness, you win. You're going on to one more set to the Smite World Championships, and then a very similar match to what we just had between the Scarabs and the Warriors will be the Bolts and the Valkyries. Remember, no knockout matches tomorrow, but the route to the Smite World Championship becomes a lot easier for the two teams that are able to win their matchups here tomorrow. So Jade Dragon, Sleekness, Olympus Bolts, Valkyries, and Myth, I kind of want to get your closing thoughts here before you end the day. Probably favoring Jade Dragons over Sleekness, but in your eyes, is that actually the maybe more interesting of these two matchups?
Of those two, I think Jade Dragons up against Sleekness is going to be a lot closer.